You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, welcome back and happy Friday night. Thank God it's Friday. We got a busy weekend ahead of us. We got some handgun courses running this weekend. And again, feel free to check out the website. I'm not allowed to advertise any of those things, but obviously most of you know what we do for a living and how we actually support this channel. So you can go to a website that sounds a lot like this YouTube channel with .com on the end of it, and you can figure out all of those things and see what we do outside of that. But we have a really important discussion. It's probably the 30th, literally the 30th standalone podcast that we've had talking about specifically the ballistics. I'm going to introduce our guests in just a minute, but if you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe. Down in the description below, there's also a link to a membership. If you would like to support this channel financially, we would really appreciate that. It goes a long way. It's $8 a month. Folks, that's 2 cups of coffee a month. Not a big deal, but it does help us out. Also, while you're down there in the description, we have links to all of our guests except for one, which we can remedy, by the way. But make sure you go follow them as well. And I do want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. We've been doing marathon live streams with these preliminary hearings. Today was a short day, thank God. That's why we can manage doing this. But I do want to say hi to everybody on the chat. Texas Motherbird, the eclectic journalist, CJ Correnti, one of the biggest supporters of this channel ever. Lace, who is one of our mods, thank you very much. And thank you to all our mods for all the hard work you do. But we're going to get into a good discussion tonight, and things are very different. Number one, if you're out there, I want to extend on olive branch. If you're out there and you still believe that there's no way, it's impossible that a 30-06 could have hit Charlie Kirk and not exited, this show is for you. I want us to have a good, spirited debate, but civil, friendly. That's what it's going to be. And without further ado, I want to introduce the rest of our guests. We'll just go around the room, but one of them specifically, Willie, thank you for coming on. I know you were down in the chat earlier today and you were talking about ballistics and you were stating your position. I'm going to let you do that because I don't want to put any words in your mouth. But I said, hey, you know what? Love to have you on tonight. Come on here. Let's talk about your position, that you don't feel like this is possible or whatever it is that your position is. But Nate, if you will, introduce yourself real quick and then I'll have Justin introduce himself.
Nate Vance. I was a Marine infantryman, and I've just been a lifetime shooter and hunter. And I also currently work for a company that makes projectiles, primarily armor penetrating, but you still have to kind of understand the concept of how bullets work in order to make those functions. So
absolutely. And folks, do me a favor right now and share this. Like, I understand that this is probably the most pivotal, I don't know, most confusing element of the entire Charlie Kirk assassination, unless you believe in exploding microphones or whatever else. We can talk about those, but share this content. It's important. Whether you agree with us or not, please share it so that we can have this discussion. Justin, go ahead, bud.
Thanks for having me on. I'm Justin Nazaroff. I'm the CEO of Fenix Ammunition Company. We're a family-owned, Michigan-based ammunition manufacturer. We have been around for about 10 years. Prior to that, I worked in risk management and product liability for aerospace products. So I had a pretty solid manufacturing background going in. And so, yeah, for the last 10 years, we've just been trying to do everything that we can to make ammunition more perfect than it is.
Awesome. Willie, introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Gary. I was a guy in the comments that was getting pointed out as a troll, so it's awesome that you'd have someone on that you don't know, and I respect the hell out of that. I'm coming from Ranger Battalion, got my degree immediately afterwards. Started working in the firearms industry. I recently have left the industry, but vaguely that's my background.
Awesome. Well, you don't like to talk about yourself, so you're clearly not a Navy SEAL. First and foremost, folks, I don't care what position you hold on this matter. You're going to be respectful to our guests, and you're going to be respectful to me because we're going to treat you the same way. We want pushback. We encourage disagreement, but I don't have time for people just being clowns in the chat and just distracting from the adult conversation that we're trying to have. We will also try to get to as many comments. We will prioritize super chats. For those of you that support the channel, we are going to prioritize those. So I just want to lay out my position, and I think it's the same position that Justin and Nate have on this issue. I am not saying that 100% that Charlie Kirk was shot with a 30-06. What I'm saying is that I disagree with the position that it is impossible that Charlie Kirk was shot with a 30-06 and we don't have an exit wound. At this point, I don't even believe that. Well, I'll say this. Going into this, I was kind of that, like, I questioned that. I always called it anomalous. I always thought it was an issue when it came to this. I questioned that as well. I also always knew that it was possible. I thought going into this, I thought it was more unlikely than it is. And then somebody brought up the Martin Luther King incident. I obviously knew that Martin Luther King was shot. I didn't know the full case study of that, what actually happened. And then I was told he was shot with 30-06 and that there wasn't an exit wound. So I decided to take the time and actually study this. Yes, I've been doing long range and teaching ballistics, pistol, rifle, long range for over 20 years now at the highest level possible. We have our own line of custom rifles. I reload. I'm as into guns as anybody. What I will say is that what we don't spend a lot of time in is studying terminal ballistics. There's very few people that do. And that was especially not specific to 30-06. I now believe that we have kind of over-exaggerated the capabilities of 30-06. And then I started studying Martin Luther King incident. And then I came across Chuck Ritter, a Green Beret that was shot in the spine at 25 yards with 7.62 by 54. Not only did he not have an exit wound, he's still alive. 25 yards away, folks. It went between his ribs, hit his spine, deflected downward. No exit wound, still alive. Then I just ran into, somebody sent me another incident of Shane Hill. He was shot from a fairly close distance away, much shorter than Charlie. He was shot in the back, hit him in the spine. He died, but he didn't have an exit wound either. So, and then you get into some of the postmortem, and then you get into some of the different studies that the military has done. We have a long history of 30-06 use through World War II, Korea, even into Vietnam, and really even after that. I just named 4 people, including Charlie Kirk. If you want to include Charlie Kirk in that, I would. Where we have real world incidents where people were shot with a 30-06 and we don't have an exit wound. And what they all have in common is they were shot in the spine. And I think that's important as well. So I'm not saying it's impossible. What I'm saying is it's more probable than most people realize. And then on top of that, when you have the preponderance of the evidence, like, you can't give me an alternative of anything else. So I don't care if it's 1 in a billion that it, like, that's what happened, because we don't have any evidence against that. So I'll stop that there. Justin, lay out, well, real quick, anything else that you guys want to add to that, Nate or Justin?
Yeah, I guess I'll just say my perspective is coming strictly from the projectile science and, you know, what I've learned from having manufactured tens of millions of rounds and fired hundreds of thousands of them into, you know, every conceivable surface. And, you know, what I've learned over the years is there's a lot of variation. I mean, you know, people think of the firearms and ammunition industry as like aerospace, for example, but in terms of the quality standards, you know, I was actually pretty shocked when I came in the very beginning to see just how little a lot of these companies understood about manufacturing tolerances and how loose they were. So, you know, the bottom line is when a projectile hits any kind of a solid object, you really don't have a lot of way to determine exactly what's going to happen. And in particular, Remington Core-Locked, it's a jacketed soft point. It's very old technology. This is how we made bullets, you know, a century ago. And so the jacket and the core are not bonded together in any kind of fashion, aside from just the mechanical friction of when the jacket gets pulled over the lead core. And so, you know, I personally have fired several different Remington bullets, I'll put it that way. Having done a lot of testing in pistol ammunition, for example, where we got jacket and core separation at, you know, 9mm velocities in ballistics gel. where it's definitely not supposed to do that. And, they advertise it right on the box that it's not going to do that. So when you're talking about rifle rounds at high velocity, you're talking about that hitting bones. I think all bets are off, to be honest. And, I'm not shocked. If it was, I actually didn't hear that the grain weight was 150.
They didn't. They haven't said that.
Did they? Yeah. So that's one question that I kind of still have about that I'm sure they could probably answer. But I would even think for a smaller bullet, you'd have even, people would think, well, it's smaller and it's going faster. It's just going to blaze right through. But that's not really the case. 55 grain FMJ in 5.56, it's designed specifically to fragment. It will do that very reliably under 100 yards just due to the velocity. So the further up you push velocity, the more chance you're going to have of fragmentation, even in cases where you design a projectile to mitigate that with some kind of bonding or, a jacket crimp or something like that. And so I'm just not really at all surprised. Again, having fired bullets into ballistics gel that broke into pieces when they weren't supposed to, the minute that you start introducing bones and different kinds of tissue into the mix, you really don't know what's going to happen. I've seen bullets go through car doors that weren't supposed to, and I've seen them that go through car doors that didn't go through a door when they were supposed to. So anyway, I don't want to go on too much further, but my perspective is I've done a lot of shooting. I've done a lot of manufacturing, and I've seen bullets do a lot of very weird things. And so I'm just not going to put all my eggs in that basket.
Awesome. Willie, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I would just say, just to, I guess, address the obvious, but everyone in this room is more qualified to talk about the topic than me, and it's probably important to bring that up before I guess start. But with that being said, I guess my main critique is I just find it bizarre the dismissive nature of how our people are speaking about criticisms. I think it's reasonable to question. I mean, anyone who knows a small amount about 30-06, whether they're a ballistic expert or not, I think it's reasonable to watch that video and say, man, that went through what seemingly soft tissue, potentially his spine. And if we're and this is an assumption, Justin, I know you asked if it was 150 grain. I don't know that it's 150 grain, but I think it's safe to say it was between 150 200 grain, like most 30-06 sales are. So if we use that as a premise, I just think it's a really reasonable take to be skeptical of the fact that the round didn't exit the body. Now, obviously, I'm not speaking in absolutes, and I'm not suggesting that it's impossible for all the reasons that you laid out, Justin. There is no absolutes in ballistics. There's anomalies constantly, almost to the point where you shouldn't even call them outliers. But I do just find the immediate and stern, I guess, pushback, almost like just in labeling a conspiracy and kind of getting lumped in with the Candace Owens of the worlds and the Ian Carrolls of the worlds for giving pushback on the fact that a 30-06 round at 150 yards didn't punch through someone's neck. I think that's a reasonable take, and I have a hard time understanding why people become very hostile and kind of put you in a bucket of conspiracy, tinfoil hat, nut job if you make that comment.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is fair. With that being said, I think we've been addressing this since really almost September, but specifically where I currently stand around October. And we've done literally dozens and dozens. We've addressed this dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And I understand where your position would be if this was September, October, November. I guess where we're coming from and where the hostility comes from is, I can tell you right now, the people that are being attacked the most and most viciously are us. It's
right.
Nonstop. And that probably, we get tired of it. And there's always trolls and oh, you're telling me a 30-06. And this is some guy that's been in his basement, never has shot a single thing. And by the way, the only advice that he has or his opinion is coming from Ian Carroll, who's also never shot anything in his life either.
Right.
So that's kind of where that comes from. And what I want to do is, I thought tonight would be a good night to pull back the reins, dial down the temperature just a little bit, and have as a friendly and fair and civil discussion as we possibly can, and address any of your concerns about this or questions or, anything. And this goes with the chat as well. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's step away from social media and let's act like we're sitting in front of one another and talk to each other with the same level of respect as we would. I don't know really where to begin with this. I'm gonna give it to you, Nate. Start us off.
Well,
put you on the hot seat.
All right. Well, one thing, and this has just been kind of a debate that I've been having with people online again, over the last couple of days, but they keep talking about the fragility of the human neck, right? And I think that's kind of ridiculous. It holds up one of the heaviest objects, on our body 24 hours a day. It's incredibly densely packed with muscle and fibers and tendons and ligaments. And then, people say, well, your spine's like this fragile, assembly. And I'm going to read something about bone that I just looked up, like as the intro was playing. And you got to think too, bone is stronger where it is being used the most. It will get stronger if you use it a lot, and you cannot avoid using your spine. It's attached to everything. It's the keel of the ship, essentially. So it says, bone has a tensile strength in the range of 700 to 1,400 kilograms per square centimeter, or 10,000 to 20,000 pounds per square inch, and a compressive strength in the range of 1,400 to 2,100 kilograms per square centimeter, or 20,000 to 30,000 pounds per square inch, which are comparable to aluminum or mild steel, but much more elastic, right? And then I'm going to show you, this is a 3D, it's a lumbar vertebrae, but this is printed to scale. It's, this is also of a woman, right? That was what on the file that it came off of, right? So roughly 100-pound woman. Charlie Kirk was a 230-pound, 6'5" man, right? And he was healthy. So I'm going to show you a 150 grain bullet in comparison to this vertebrae, which has the tensile strength comparable to like 7,000 series steel or 7,000 series aluminum or mild steel, right? So if I told you this piece was made out of mild steel and this piece was trying to go through it, it wouldn't be so dramatic to think that maybe it wouldn't penetrate it, right? And it's certainly going to damage it, right? There's certainly going to be damage and impact, things like that. But, and then when you think that this is we're assuming, right? The bullets they found were an exposed lead tip bullet. If it is a 150 grain core locked round, it's like what Justin said. That is century old technology. Lead is incredibly soft. I'll show you later where I can start to deform it with my fingers, right? I can use the strength of my wrist and just tap it off my counter and start to deform it. So you think about it hitting,
activate.
Well, what's that? Marine Corps activate. Yeah.
I said retard strength activate.
Yeah. But that's the thing though, is it doesn't require retard strength, right? Like I could bite it with my teeth. I just don't want to get fucking lead poisoning. Right. So, the concept, and Justin, for you, like I've had quite a few Remington core lock bullets in my life. The 30 cal has that flat nose, and then the next size up in core locked is 180 grain, and it has a much more rounded and a lot more exposed lead on the tip of it, kind of like that AccuBond I was holding. So obviously I'm not holding it, but I'm 99% sure that is 150 grain core locked, right? Without
the only other so they do make a 165 grain core lock. It's a lot less.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. I think I think this is a 165 grain core locked. This is something, again, like I was talking in a different podcast earlier. I only own this because it was on sale and super cheap. This is like, to me, something that I'm putting into a berm. Like I would never shoot an animal with core locked. I just, I'm not trying to like dog on Remington bat or anything. I don't make 30-06, at least commercially. So, I have no like incentive here to dog on it, but there's just much better bullet technology now than there was. So, but yeah, I think this is actually 165. So they look pretty similar, the 150 and the 165.
Yeah, and let's talk real quick, because this is the question that we all get on a pretty regular basis. Like, well, then just recreate it. Just
right.
Go out there and recreate it. And I'd like to hear all of your input on this, but there's a real problem with that. Number one, that is, if we're going to recreate it, we need to have all the same variables, which that is impossible to do. And I think even going out there and pretending that you're going to, like we have a lot of these people, like if you're shooting a chuck roast with a freaking cow femur in the middle of it or whatever you're shooting, that is nowhere near the same. And something that you talked about just a second ago, Nate, that I think is really important. Like we know that we can take a mild piece of 1/4 inch steel and we can take I don't care, probably even a 9mm round, and we're going to shoot right through that. But you can also take a 1/4-inch piece of Kevlar that is soft, flexible, that, I mean, really, if we went back 100 years or even 50 years and we said, hey, this 1/4-inch piece of flexible material will stop this bullet, they'd be like, there's no way. But yet it does. And the reason that it does is because it does flex. It does dissipate the energy that is going on, as opposed to something super hard and rigid. And just like we talked about on the spine, there is something unique about that it does flex, that it does, by the way, it is literally designed by God, or if you're not into that, you have evolved to where you have this spine that dissipates energy every single day. And there's something unique about that. And that's why I go back to, I think it's odd or a hell of a coincidence that we have Charlie Kirk, Martin Luther King, Chuck Ritter, and Shane Hill all shot with 30-06, all shot in the spine with no exit wound. So it does dissipate that energy. The other thing is, even if we were shooting ballistic gel, if I take a 5-pound block of ballistic gel and I shoot it with 30-06 compared to a 30-pound block of ballistic gel, like, the results are going to be extremely different in all categories. The way that the gel reacts, the way that the bullet fragments or doesn't, or whatever we got going on there. And we need to understand it. So for instance, I used this analogy earlier, a Newton's cradle, right? We got the like the 5 steel balls. If I lift that up and I let it go, it crashes into that one ball. Those other 3 balls stay perfectly still, and then the one on the end now moves. It's because energy transfers through that. And that's exactly what will happen. There's going to be less, it's less likely, if I shoot something that's 200 pounds, it's less likely that we're going to have that pass through than if I shoot something that's 30 pounds, even if it's the same thickness, because that energy is connected to, like, there's so much more volume for that energy to be transmitted and displaced. And then on top of that, we have the variability of the round. Like, just trying to, if we had an exact model of Charlie Kirk, and it would take a lot of shots to get in the exact same spot and then try to replicate that. So you got to have the exact analog of the target that you're trying to replicate. On top of that, you need a large sample so that you can get, because this is all statistical analysis at the end of the day. You can't just shoot 1 or 2 or really even 5 and expect to be able to understand what's happening in this dynamic environment. And then lastly, of course, the other thing that we don't have is the gun, because we don't know if that round was stabilized. I do find it, one of the first things I notice is that we do have an atypical entrance wound. It looks longer and wider than it should, in my opinion, from what I've seen. And I have seen people shot in the neck at distance. I don't remember seeing something open up like that. And like, that could indicate that we have a non-stabilized round, and that it's yawing. It's either an extreme yaw, and or it could even possibly be tumbling. You guys?
Yeah, I think I'll a couple quick things. I'm sort of been collecting these in my brain. You know, I saw on, like, the size of Charlie Kirk, for example, as you said, he is 6'4", 230. You know, that's the size of a white-tailed deer. So when people dismiss offhand, like, you know, to address kind of the dismissing things in one direction or the other, why do you guys get so angry? I mean, part of it is I've seen so many animals shot with 30-06 and larger calibers in some cases where there was no exit wound. And so there's just a lot of data out there. So for every person that says they've never seen it before, there's 2 or 3 people in my comment section that can show me 3 or 4 deer that they've shot with no exit wound. And I think when you were talking about, like, the elasticity of human tissue, I think that's very important. So, like, for example, you know, Ian Carroll keeps referencing this guy that shot a bunch of cast iron pans. Well, you know, cast iron is very brittle. It's not designed to be bulletproof, certainly, but cast iron itself, like, compared to mild steel, it's much more brittle. So I would totally expect that. And so, you know, when we're talking about designing tests and some way to try to simulate this, again, ballistics gel, not an analog to human tissue. There's no variation in there. It's a test medium. It's not meant to. So then you look at using carcasses, dead animals, all these kinds of things. That the problem is that they're not alive. And that sounds funny to say, but they don't have blood running through their veins. They don't, the water content of the muscle and the tissue starts to drop immediately when you die. Everything starts to dehydrate.
Yeah.
So after a few days, the bones and the tissue are not elastic in the way that they were. And so the comment that I see a lot from people who dismiss animal examples is they'll say, well, the skin of the deer is much tougher than a human being. And the question is, okay, but how are you defining toughness? Okay. Does it have a higher tensile strength? Maybe, but it's much less elastic. So in comparison to human skin, it's actually much more brittle. So,
and I don't even know if that's actually true. Like
it may or may not be, but I think I've looked at that and done some very light research, and their skin is, I can't remember the cut through. In any case, yeah, it's stronger in some ways, but it is more brittle. It doesn't flex as much, and so that allows our bodies to absorb a lot of damage and dissipate quite a lot of energy. So if you're talking about somebody getting shot in the neck vertebrae, and then as you were talking about with the cradle, one of the other questions that keeps coming up is, well, depending on whose podcast you listen to or who was saying which vertebrae were damaged and which weren't. And I've always gone back to, well, I would fully expect every vertebrae with 2 to 3 below and 2 to 3 above where the projectile hit, I would expect all of those to be mostly destroyed, because I would expect that if it hit one directly, it would send pieces of that vertebrae into the vertebrae below it and above it. And so I don't think that we can exactly know, like they were talking about there was damage from the C2 to the C4, I think. And so the people are trying to come up with some crazy theory that the bullet would have had to go up and then down, all these things. But you have a lot of tissue in your upper back. Charlie was a big guy. I just don't think that it's implausible at all that you would recreate that shot even perfectly and not have an exit wound at least some of the time. And so me personally, I'm just not going to waste my time buying a bunch of stuff from the grocery store and shooting it and trying to create an entertainment program, because none of that is admissible in court. So what I can tell you for sure is, if any of these tests that Chris Martinson or the guy with the frying pans or the Nate, the Valhalla, whatever his name is, if any of their tests were valid, I promise you that the defense team would be contacting them, and they would be paying somebody $40,000 or $50,000 to recreate that study in a more professional setting for them to be using it in court. And they're not going to do that because it's not admissible, and they would never accept that as scientific evidence.
Yeah. Nate, you got anything to add to that before I go to Willie?
Well, yeah, I just think that the one thing we need to consider too, when they shoot, chunks of meat in their backyard, skin is very strong. It has a very high tensile strength. Whether, human and animal tissues are slightly different, it's still very strong, right?
There's no skin on the meat. Right, exactly.
Yeah. There's no skin on the meat, so you shoot it and it starts to expand. Well, and also store-bought meat is wet-aged, which allows, or wet-aged or dry-aged, which allows enzymatic reactions to break down the muscle proteins to make it softer, right? That's why they do that, right? So it literally this says that in the process. It's designed to make it softer and more, easier to eat. But that also makes, reduces its tensile strength. And then you don't have this skin sac around it to prevent it from, stretching beyond its modulus of elasticity and then coming apart. Whereas we are contained by this really strong sac of skin. And we did see in Charlie, I mean, that's visible, that you could see his whole chest, neck, and lower head expanded and then came back down. So there was this very dramatic outward force within him that went away. Now, if you want to debate about whether or not it was an exploding microphone, I think it's ridiculous, but but there was some type of thing inside him that was some force that was causing that to expand, and it was the skin that held all that together. and then went back down. Now that doesn't mean that the damage inside him is not devastating, which it obviously was, because he's no longer with us. So
yeah, I think the hydration content, I think, is really important. You know, if you shoot a bullet into a pool of water, it doesn't go very far. Your body is, you know, what, 80-something% water, 70-something% water. And so people kind of dismiss that as, well, it's just water, but water is an incompressible fluid. And when it's trapped within cells and muscle tissue, you know, it moves around and it dissipates a lot of energy. It doesn't really want to move around. And so it takes quite a lot of force to redistribute it through your tissue.
Well, and the body has variable density, right? And what I shoot somebody, again, even our 4 necks, all right? Our 4 necks are different sizes. They're different densities, all of those things. There's different fat to muscle content. I might be more hydrated than one person. And that's the other thing to remember. Everybody's like, well, ballistic gel, 10% ballistic gel is the equivalent to the human body. It's not, folks. That's not even what it's designed to be. All right? It is an approximate sort of, but what it really is for is when they are testing penetration of rounds and the terminal performance of rounds, they have a constant medium that they can use, a consistent medium, so that it is comparative analysis from one round to the next. There's like ballistic gel. How many inches of ballistic gel represent how many inches of the human body, and where? Because that's different. Like my sternum, I can't represent ballistic gel if something hits me in the sternum, and so on and so forth. So just so we understand that it is not even close to a good analog, much less a perfect one. Willie, tell us what we're getting wrong, what we're leaving out. If there's anything you feel like we're misrepresented, I want to hear from you.
I should probably start with what I think you guys are getting right, so people don't think I'm a kook and I'm here to, you know, blow steam. So I think.
Are you paid by Israel?
No, $7,000 a post for me. No, sir.
I needed you to turn around and make sure you're not wearing a small hat.
No. But to kind of, I guess, to directly answer what Nate and Justin most recently said, they're exactly right. I mean, we saw Charlie's shirt move. I think that's what they refer to as a temporary cavity. Your body's predominantly made of water. Yep. Water can't expand, or excuse me, can't compress. So as a result, it moves.
Shock. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. So I agree with you there, and I'm not someone who thinks that there's a bomb in the microphone or whatever the theory is. I think.
Out, bro.
What's that?
So you're missing out. There's a lot of money in there.
I think where I start to deviate from the group is, for all the reasons that you guys gave, some of which anecdotal, like for example, the Gary, you have personal instances where you know a gentleman who got shot with a 30-06 in a comparable distance, no exit wound. MLK, all the anecdotes that we gave. I just find it bizarre that we're willing to use anecdotes in favor of an argument. But if I were to come on the show and say, hey, I've shot animals with a 30-06 at 150 yards, and it goes straight through. Like I've seen an exit wound dozens and dozens of times. It's not really a valid argument, and it's not something that I would use in this debate. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, I think it is a valid argument, and I wouldn't. So that's empirical evidence, right? So that's firsthand evidence. So I'm the one that would throw that out. I think that's why I've said, and I think they would agree, that it is fairly atypical. So anyways, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to clarify how I felt about that.
No worries. Justin, it sounds like you wanted to say
something.
All
I wanted to say is I think we actually can use anecdotal, and let me explain why. Because the position, at least the position that I'm holding, is that it's not impossible for this to have happened. And so therefore, if I can find even one instance where it did happen, then effectively I've proved that it's not impossible. Now, ideally, I'd like to have thousands of examples, because then I could say that it's not only not impossible, but now we're in the realm of, say, improbable, which is maybe one step above impossible, right? So that's why I think on one side, anytime one side is claiming that something could not have happened, then you basically open the door up for the other side to say, okay, but here's at least one example where it did happen. And so, therefore now you're arguing from the position of impossibility, which we've already proven incorrect. And we've moved you into the realm of, okay, well, yeah, it's not impossible, but it's just very unlikely. And then we can start to say, okay, well, now I do have more anecdotal evidence. Now I have, say, a study from World War II where we have, perhaps thousands of people who were shot with no exit wound. And in that case, they were using FMJ projectiles, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like the military, I'm not military, so I love to dog on military guys anytime that I can. But, you guys aren't using soft points. I mean, most of you aren't. I mean, I know there's specialty rounds, of course, but our militaries are basically shooting each other with FMJs across the world. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of exit wounds. I would totally expect there to be a lot of exit wounds. So in any case, I don't want to go on any further. I just wanted to say, I think that's the issue that I've had the whole time is, Ian Carroll gets into my comments section and says, this is impossible. And I just say, bro, there's like 10,000, not 10,000, but there's, several hundred people in my comment section who are showing examples where it did. And so you have to upgrade yourself to, okay, at least it's improbable. And now we can maybe get into a further discussion of how improbable is it, likelihoods, all these kinds of things. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything that you just said. And for someone like Ian to come into your comments and suggest that it is impossible, that doesn't make sense. Ian's obviously not qualified to make that assessment, nor is that assessment reasonable. But I just feel like exactly as you described, impossible versus improbable. The improbable just seems, at least to me, and again, I don't know if I said this while we were live or if it was before the show started, but I'm the least qualified person here to talk about this, admittedly. But I do have experience. I mean, I have a reasonable amount of experience, firsthand experience, and it just, to me, the way that I've interacted with 30-06 and animals, I would guess if we recreated the Charlie Kirk incident, maybe one time out of 2,000 times. I mean, it's 6 to 8 inches of soft tissue, and maybe it hit the do we know that it hit the vertebrae? Is that
we do know that it hit the vertebrae, and I would disagree with the 6 to 8 inches, but go ahead. And I would also where did you get that number when you say I think 1 out of 2,000 times?
I'm spitballing. I completely an arbitrary number. I just threw it out there. It just seems to me that, and again, with my experience with 30-06, which is obviously limited, if it's not 6 to 8 inches, I don't know how thick we're suggesting Charlie's neck was. But I mean, if it penetrates boar skulls, if it's penetrating aoudad skull, and deep into these animals, I just find it very unlikely. Not impossible, but I just find it so unlikely that there's no exit wound. Even if a small fragment slipped out the side, I'm not saying the entire projectile that didn't mushroom at all should have, the magic bullet, JFK-esque, perfect bullet was supposed to come out the back of his neck. I'm just saying, it's very, very bizarre, and to me improbable for no shrapnel to come out of, again, what seemed, I would consider a 6 to 8 inch soft tissue. That's what a neck is for me. And if I'm way off base on that, I'm happy to hear why. But
well, I think the angle is what I would dispute. It did hit him in the neck, but I mean, if I can turn sort of sideways, if you're getting hit right about at the bottom of the right on the clavicle is more or less where the hole is at a downward angle, it would go through the neck and then into the upper back. And actually, I mean, if I'm sitting mostly straight quick, up Justin, like this, yeah.
Real quick, it's actually right, just slightly lower than the Adam's apple on the left-hand side.
Yeah. So in any case, I mean, same idea, slightly even lower of an angle, but so it is going through the neck, but now it's getting into the trapezius and the top of your lats, and those are some pretty big muscle groups. And Charlie was, like I said, not a small guy. I mean, he wasn't NFL linebacker or anything, but 220 to 230, 6'4", 6'5".
Big dude.
That's a pretty fucking big dude. I mean, that's a lot bigger than me. And so I don't know. that there's a lot of tissue there anyway.
Yeah. So like the average neck is somewhere around 9 inches ish in diameter, somewhere like that. So I know that's where that number comes from. But what I want to talk about too, just like he's alluding to, and maybe a little bit more in depth, and one element that we haven't talked about at all is, number one, we are dealing with a 9.4 to 9.7 degree slope. That is what the slope is from there. So we're already dealing with an angle. And I think if we all agree that instead of a straight on hit, which would be the shortest distance between 2 points, if we add 10 degrees, we're adding material and thickness for which that round would need to transverse. Do you agree with that, Willie?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's if Charlie Kirk is sitting straight up. He's not. He's sitting like this. And so he's adding angle. The round is coming at an angle. So we probably more like 15 degrees in relation to his body, but there's more than that. So as you guys know, and I'm going to blow this screen up just a little bit. And this is one thing that I've never discussed because I didn't want to get into the weeds with it, but why the hell not? And it's not huge difference, but when we're talking about ballistics, we have a line of sight. We have a line of sight, which is the straight line distance between us and the target. And now I got a freaking easel that's falling apart on me for some reason. I have moved this easel. Speaking of, I've moved this easel like 100 times, and it's never done this. It's just one time. It's the freaking Jews.
Such is life.
Freaking Jews. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, irregardless. All right, so we have the line of sight. That's the line of sight. But then we actually have the ballistic trajectory. We have the line of departure. So when I'm aiming at something, whether you realize it or not, what in the actual F is going on here? Oh my God.
Gentle. Too gentle. Can you lean it up against the wall in the back?
I'm sure I can. I don't know. I don't know what that means. There we go. Anyways, so when we're aiming at something, and this is not a gun barrel, this is a pipe. This is actually, I took it off the toilet. Don't worry about that. So anyways, when obviously, and you guys know this, but a lot of shooters don't, right? We're dealing with the constant of gravity. If I need to shoot at something and it's straight in front of me and it's 100 yards away, I have to angle that barrel up. You don't realize you're doing it because your scope is actually pointed down. You may not realize that, but we're creating a parabolic arc, the trajectory. And so to some degree, and we need to just understand the trajectory, right? So it's actually coming in at a angle because of that, right? So we actually lift the bullet up just like throwing a football. The farther I need to throw it, the higher that max ordnance, which is the highest points in that trajectory. So the bullet is actually coming down. Now at 140 yards, is it a lot? No, but it's probably, I don't know, probably an additional 10 inches in height, which adds a couple degrees of angle that is going down into his neck. So when he's leaned forward, so we're getting additional length. Now, I'm not saying it adds a lot, but every bit matters in this, and people need to understand this. It's not because I see this depicted all the time. It's just straight through. It's just straight through. And let me ask you this, Willie.
Yes, sir.
What do we know will penetrate further, 30-06 or 9mm?
What do we know will penetrate further?
Yes.
9mm, honestly.
9mm will penetrate further.
Yeah.
Okay. And most people would obviously say 30-06. I do want to play this video real quick because I hadn't seen this video before, but this is Mythbusters. And every time I play this, I get hit with a strike and I get demonetized, but it's worth it. Anyways.
That was without any, awareness of to what was going to happen to Charlie Kirk 20 years.
So there we get, there we go. Ballistics are often counterintuitive. And the other part of this, and something that you touched on earlier, Willie, that we are all doing is when this all first went down, myself and everybody else, we were trying to interpret a extremely high speed, high energetic event through 30 frames per second, which is pretty much impossible to do. And we can get into some other things, but so far, what are some of your concerns or things that you don't feel like that we've taken into account? Because what I can tell you real quick, let me see, I'll find this. I do have a picture of 30-06 that went 11 inches into, that only went 11 inches. And by the way, it was a cup and core bullet. Oh, here we go. Let me add this. There we go. And I will pull that down and add that. All right, so we have a 30-06 Black Hills, 30-06. Now, this is AMAX. I'm not saying it's a perfect analogy, but it only went 11 inches. 11 inches, and it didn't hit bone. So if it went 11 inches going through a non-variable density target, I mean, is it so far of a stretch that we could think that it would go 8 or 9 inches at most once it hits, the vertebrae? I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, honestly, based off the conversation that we're having, and there's a lot of things that I hadn't considered, the angle in particular. I mean, I've been set on the 8 inches or however, man. I mean, obviously, again, I'm spitballing, but
Sure.
Angle matters. And like you said, if he's leaned forward, if the round's going in diagonal, it's not a through and through, that adds material, which obviously adds, it decreases the likelihood of an exit wound. So that checks out to me. I guess I don't know. I really don't even know how to respond to that, because more or less my case is just that it seems less likely that there wouldn't be an exit wound than there would. And if you go on YouTube and you do look at core lock, I think there's a guy, it's like Mason Leather, or I don't remember his name. Mr. Guns and Gear posted a video and mentioned a video that this gentleman had posted. And I think the shortest, the 150 grain core lock penetrated the ballistic gel was 16 inches. And I think it penetrated in some instances as high as 28 inches. I feel like if you're looking at that data and exactly as you described, ballistic gel is not a 1-to-1. It's not a perfect replica. There is no perfect scenario that we can replicate that's going to give us an absolute answer. But if these rounds are penetrating 28 inches on average, I think the average, it was 26 or 28 inches in this guy's video in ballistic gel, it's safe. I mean, you can draw a conclusion from that. It's not a 1-to-1. It's not the exact same thing, but you should be able to look at that data and draw a conclusion from it reasonably. And for me, I just think it's a lot more likely that there would be an exit wound than not. And I
agree with you that it's much more likely. So you said in that same video, it goes as far as 28 inches to 16 inches. I mean, look at the variability just in what you're talking about. So if we shot 100 more rounds, would it be possible that we would have some that only go 12 inches? And let me ask you, you said you're an NRL shooter and you know a thing or two about shooting. Does the rifle that we use to do those tests with matter?
Absolutely. Yeah. The barrel. Yeah.
If we have a barrel that is shot out, or there's some other damage to the lands and grooves, or just a damage to the crown, like, it is very possible that we could replicate exactly what happened, or at least shoot ballistic gel, get very minimal penetration, because that round is not stabilized, whether it's an extreme yaw, whether it's tumbling. Like, those are possibilities. And when we talk about low probability things happen all the time. Have you ever been in a car wreck?
I have, yes, sir.
How many car wrecks have you been in your lifetime?
Just one.
Okay,
only one. Yeah.
So I just looked up the statistics from day to day. Every day that you walk out, you have a 1 in 20,000 chance of getting into a car wreck. But it happens to people all the time. Some people have been in, they're 20, 30 years old. They've been in 10 car wrecks. I've probably been in 5 myself. So, like, low probability things happen all the time. And I agree with you that it's a lower probability that we don't have an exit wound than we do, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Nate, you're going to say something.
Yeah, look, Willie, I think I hate to break it to you, but I think we all kind of agree.
I was gonna say I don't think I'm making good TV because I'm almost I don't know that
it's
we're
not a good
disagreeing
fight.
much.
Yeah, it's not a good
Not the
argument.
Pierce Morgan panel I was hoping for.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
And I think maybe some of the social media comments made you think that we're saying like, no, it always stops in human necks, and that's not what we're saying. I mean, I know that's not what Gary's saying, Justin. I don't mean to speak for you, but I think that's what you're saying as well. Like, you know. It's certainly less than 50% odds. You know what I mean? Like I can't, and none of us really can do, because we can't shoot thousands of people in the neck with 30-06s to measure how often they stop in necks. You know what I mean?
I keep, Ian keeps asking me to do it. And I say, hey buddy, whenever you're ready, I mean, you're about Charlie Kirk's size. I mean,
well, listen, we can,
aren't you interested in the truth? I mean, how committed are you, buddy? But
although I may have come up with a solution to the Chomo problem, you know what I mean? If we need to do some science, we might have a use for those people that might maybe more so than they're serving the public right now. But no, and then look, anecdotal things like what's good about that video that Gary brought up. And Gary, if you want to show it, we can. But that Ron Spomer video I sent,
No, let's play that
because he's basically talking about these cup and core type bullets.
Hold on, let me get rid of this one. Add that one.
Bought a 30-06 and I'm working on.
There we go.
Here is Garrett from Michigan. I bought a 30-06 and I'm working on a good round to reload for it. To keep it short, in your experience, should I focus on high weight retention bullets like solid copper bonded, or should I focus on medium retention like the Spire Point or the Hornady's SST? I'm leaning toward 150 grain for flatter trajectory and lighter recoil. Be hunting primarily Michigan whitetails. Yeah, good question. And you're facing the same issue that so many of us do, especially with a versatile cartridge like the 30-06. Do you shoot the 150 grain bullet or the 180 or the 200? Do you do the deep penetration bullets? I would say for whitetail in a place like Michigan, where you're probably hunting in some fairly close range stuff, you're not looking to fly halfway around the world and keep that bullet online. You don't need the long high BC bullets to do the job. You will get a flatter trajectory, as you say, out of the 150s. Now, what happens when that bullet lands? Well, the SSTs, the more malleable bullets that are somewhat frangible and or they really mushroom a lot, that suggests that they're going to have more shock value, do more damage on the animal than the controlled round expansion bullets, which do expand, but then retain most of their weight and they punch on through. Generally, those will require a little more tracking, and the animals tend to run a little bit farther before they run out of gas, because you've probably not torn quite as much tissue, especially if your bullet breaks up on the lighter bullets. They break up and you've got pieces flying all over. You can do a lot of damage and really increase the hemorrhaging. That said, I have shot some deer with a 30-06 and 150 grain bullet like the SST. It wasn't exactly that one, but one of those typical cup and core style frangible, relatively frangible lead core bullets that mushroomed beautifully after we found it in the deer later, but we couldn't find the deer. I mean, it took off running like we'd missed, and I knew I'd hit him. I could hear the whop, and we looked and we looked and we looked. There was no blood trail because the bullet went in, it didn't come out. It's a little bit high in the chest, and it takes a while for that blood to pool up and come out. And so you've got issues there. So I generally like a bullet that goes through, and I've got a better chance for a blood trail. But either one of them work. And with a 30.
Go ahead.
Well, and the reason I point that out, I'm assuming that, you know, and this is an assumption that was a side on shot, you know, a broadside shot on a whitetail, and there's very little material there. Like whitetail ribs are not thick; they're a few millimeters thick. They're not very sturdy structures, and the average width of a whitetail is about 12 inches. So, assuming it hit very little, you know, actual hard structures, that cup and core bullet mushroomed so much, dumped so much energy in that animal that it stopped in the animal, right, without hitting anything like truly heavy bone, like a spine or something like that. I actually have an SST bullet sitting right here, 7mm, that I did the same thing with. Stopped in the skin on the other side, and you can see the jacket core separation.
Deer in Michigan.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
On this thing right here, right?
So I took that out. Let me blow you up so everybody sees it.
Very similar to what Ron Spomer is saying, right? It's not the exact same bullet. It's not 30-06, but it's the same construction type. Yeah. What's that look like, right?
So this is the projectile that was in Charlie Kirk, allegedly.
Yeah.
So the only difference is mine didn't hit bone. Didn't hit any bone.
Yeah, yeah. To me, this looks pretty typical of, again, what I've seen in even pistol caliber, certain Remington hollow point bullets. When you when it starts to peel, when it hits something hard, it peels open too quick, and the lead core keeps going. The lead is where all the weight is, right? So when the jacket peels back, the lead keeps going like the dart out of a sabot, and the copper jacket slows down because it has a lot less weight and ends up stopping. I would suspect that they found the jacket, probably somewhere close to his spinal cord vertebrae. I don't think it probably went even all the way to the end of his back. It might have, and I think the lead pieces went up into his chest and around. And yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say. I think, is it improbable? Yes, but I think this is actually much more common than what your average person would think. And, we just don't really have a lot of publicly, there aren't a lot of shootings that happen in the United States, despite the number of shootings that occur here, that happen with 30-06 and hollow points. I mean, even if you look at, mass shootings, things like that, where you have a lot of people getting shot with rifles, there are small to medium caliber rifles, and they're almost always using FMJs. I mean, you never really see people in mass shootings that are, shooting VMAX or something like that. So we just don't really have a ton of data of people human beings being shot with medium caliber rifles with soft point expanding ammunition. And so I think if we had a lot more of that going on, then you would look at the numbers, and I mean, again, it's impossible to pick out a percentage rate, but yeah, I think it's much more common than 1 in 2,000. I would say, I would guess 1 in 2,000 Remington Corlock 30-06 would fail to fire, to be honest. But I mean,
Yeah, and folks, I just the first link I sent you is not you can still get there if you have X, but I'm posting the link to Chris Lash's article, and in that article, and I'll just go ahead and pull it up so everybody knows what we're talking about. Let me see. Boom. We'll add this to stage right there. All right. So this article right here by Chris Lash. How the 30-06 always exits lies, feeling the worst Charlie Kirk conspiracies. And he goes through and a lot of commentary on that. And he mentions me, mentions Justin. You didn't make the article, Nate. I'm sorry. VFT. VFT
didn't unfollow.
Ian Carroll even made it in here. You didn't make it.
I know what you're doing, Gary.
So here's Matt Tardio post talking about it. Chris Lash and soft point expansion and energy jump. He has a post on that. We can go through those. Fenix Ammunition, Gary Melton. U.S. Army. This is really what I want you to look at. So we have U.S. Army wound ballistics. It's a PDF. You'll have to kind of dig through that a little bit. And I don't want to necessarily do that here. I'm not even sharing this tab, but this is the actual article right here. And there's a bunch of links to a lot of different posts. And then the U.S. Army wound ballistic study, World War II in Korea, 30-06, forensic pathology literature on retained and fragmented high velocity rifle bullets. I believe this is the one where, if I remember correctly, there was one, and I believe this is the one that I saw, where a guy was shot from like 60 yards away with 30-06 into his arm with no exit wound. That's highly anomalous, right? That is super atypical, but these things happen all the time. And of course, he includes the bullet fragment recovered, and then I guess the preliminary hearing. So anyways, lots of data for you guys to go through that you can look at with that. What I kind of want to do right now, unless you guys got an alibi or something that you guys want to talk about, and same thing with you, Willie, if there's something else that you want to bring up, I'd like to go to the chat and just kind of see the comments and answer any questions. Anybody got anything else before we do that?
Well, I guess I'll just say one thing. Again, I'm in this for like the ballistics and stuff. As far as the conspiracies and everything, I'm not even dismissing that there is one. I mean, it could be full well that this kid was talked into this by, whatever, the CIA, the FBI, whoever. I'm fully open to all of those things. Like, truly, I am I am interested. Show me data, and I'd be happy to look at it.
I'm with you. I
So
think
I don't want to be in that. I don't want people to like. That's the other thing. Oh, you're sucking the dick of the government narrative, and you're just getting fed everything. And it's like, guys, that I'm like the last. I'm the most anti-government guy you could possibly imagine. Like the idea that they actually give me an FFL is pretty crazy. So for you to say that I'm accepting every piece of the government narrative is just crazy. I just take exception to the idea that this is something that's just not possible. And so then I start asking more questions like, okay, well, if they were going to shoot him, why would they why would they use a different gun and leave a different one at the crime scene? It just doesn't make sense. You guys, if they spent any amount of time on this conspiracy, why would there be a mismatch? Like, why? I wouldn't expect there to be one. I would expect the bullet, if there was a mismatch between the two, then that would actually raise my eyebrows, even more. So I'm just like puzzled as to, why set up this super improbable shot with what the public perceives as a super high caliber rifle. Why not do it with
223.
whatever, a 223, an AR-15. I like that. Like that would be my full expectation would be for Charlie Kirk to have been shot with like a Palmetto State Armory AR-15 with binary with an FRT trigger and my ammo. Like, to be honest, like that wouldn't shock me in the least. Like,
I think he was shot with an IWI Tavor. I'm just saying. Like,
imagine.
You just lost your 7,000, Gary.
I know.
Oh my god. Oh man. You can even imagine.
That's a great question that I want to bring to Willie in just a moment here. But just like you said, it's like this. They went through this extremely sophisticated, complex, overly risky, that doesn't make sense to me, assassination attempt. And it's like they pulled it off seamlessly. They had the patsy ready to go, and they pulled off like nobody saw them. Like they got away with it clean. It's like they're getting on the bird, they're getting on the Egyptian plane to go back to Bibi Netanyahu's mansion. And they're like, hey, great job, guys. We got the guy that was our greatest supporter. By the way, he might have been turning on something. We wouldn't have like tried to intervene and rehabilitate that relationship. We wouldn't have done that. We're just gonna kill. But it's like, that's right. What gun were you using? Oh, it was 223. What'd you give the patsy? 30-06. Oh my gosh. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So with that being said, Willie, I am curious, because clearly you've put a lot of thought into this, and clearly you think that it was a different caliber or something. I am curious to what your follow-on explanation is. Do you think it was a different gun, a different location? Like play that out for me.
Unfortunately for probably you and the viewers, I don't have that. I don't know that I've gone so far as to draw any conclusions. I think what I have the gripe with, and I know I've said this already, is the fact that when you introduce skepticism, you get dogpiled. And I think, especially from conservatives, which I guess I find bizarre and almost a bit of betrayal, because there's so many things that we can point to as conservatives, whether it be January 6th or COVID, that have conspiracies around them that we all subscribe to, whether there's data to back up these back of our head ideas or not. I guess what I'm getting at is, I just don't know why it gets shut down so quickly. Something that is a reasonable take, and not a tinfoil hat. And to be honest, Justin, the limited amount that I know about you, I fully expected you to be the tinfoil guy out of this group, because I know how you are with the government. So I thought you were going to be a little further on the spectrum than I was. But yeah, I have a gripe with how quickly people will shut down any questioning or disbelief of the official narrative, especially when the official narrative seemingly it does have gaps, it does have holes. And are those guarantees of malicious intent, or does that automatically mean that there was conspiracy, whether regardless of what that conspiracy may be? No. But as soon as we start shutting people down, like myself, and this is just how I felt in the comments, and Gary, this does not reflect you nor your community at large, but as soon as I started giving pushback in the comments, I have 5, 6, 7 people really start to dogpile me, telling me, "Hey, you're an idiot. You obviously don't know ballistics. You're not an expert." And I'm not a boastful guy, but that's when I kind of interjected and was like, "Hey, man, I actually do have a little bit of experience in this stuff. No, I'm not an expert, and a lot of these guys could run circles around me when it comes to ballistic knowledge and experience. But the experience that I do have, I feel like is enough for me to question something and not be in return. I don't think I should be called a libtard, snowflake, Jew hating psychopath, because a lot of these critiques are, I think they're reasonable, and that's really, again, that's kind of where
That's
I'm
fair. But listen, you libtard, Jew hating retard. No, look. First of all, you're right. Like, here's the problem that you're not taking into account. A couple of things. Number one, we constantly get like legitimate trolls, and there is a now kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and I would push back on definitely my community and everybody else out there on this side of it. Like, let's try to be friendlier. And what I will say is, if you want to see real dogpiling, here's what I want you to do. I just want you to do this for an experiment. Go to Baron Coleman's or Candace Owens' comment section to say, "I think Tyler Robinson did it."
Yeah, no,
Not only will you get really dogpiled, chances are you're going to get doxxed, you're going to get death threats, you're going to get people hacking into whatever else. Like, things get a little crazy out there. And I have been trying to have, and I know Justin, Justin gets pretty, he goes high and right pretty quickly. But with this being said, I remember when Justin was coming into this conversation, and he was a different Justin. He was like a friendly, like, "Hey guys, by the way, I own a ammo manufacturing company, and this is like, I'm just telling you, this is the truth. Like, it is possible." And then like they go after him, and not only go after him, go after his business and everything else. And so, yeah, I am at this point like, bro, I've had this podcast 100 times now. And what happens is, even if it's like, it's hard to distinguish between someone that is sincere and is just here to cause chaos or talk shit. And it's like, so if it is a sincere person, they're like, "Explain to me, Gary, how this," and I literally, like, we'll be talking about, I don't know, freaking whatever else, something completely, like today, honestly, today, we were talking about the preliminary trial and what was going on with that. And then like, you're down in the comments, you're like, "Gary, explain to me how a 30-06 is possible." And it's like, well, really, if we get into the nuance of it, that's a 2-hour explanation. How about you go look at the content that I've put out and spent hours, dozens and dozens of hours on this. So like, there is a lot of tension, and I get it. What I will say, and I'll take full responsibility for anything that I've attributed or contributed to that, like, it came from their side. Because when I was completely open, I used to have, I have Ian Carroll's phone number. There was a time when like we were on good terms at the beginning of this, and I was inviting everybody on to talk about it, and I still do. I just had Real Bays on the other night. Like, I've been trying to have this discussion, and I thought we could have this collaborative effort where we're actually going for the truth. And what I found out real quick is, the moment that you go against their narrative, they start attacking you personally, trying to smear you personally, and all of these things. And by the way, they won't even have you on to give have a discussion on it. But I've had bunch of people on. Nobody's inviting me to come on because I'm going to tear them apart. Nobody's inviting Justin. Justin, has Candace Owens asked you to come on to talk about your expertise in ammunition?
Definitely not.
Vance, Nate, anybody asked you to come on there?
She won't even reply to my comments, which are the mean ones that I think Willie's talking about. And I'm giving her quite a few of those lately.
And all I get is Gary not so tactical, and she can't stop. She's obsessed with me. I don't blame her. I don't blame her. All right. I know. Yeah, I know this ain't George Farmer over here. I'm a real man. She wants some of this.
Yeah. I'll agree with that. I think the frustration on my side, and why I get nasty pretty quick, is again, I've been talking about this since basically the week that it happened. I did a Twitter live maybe 4 days after, and I said, "Hey, everybody, we got to slow down a bit. I'm seeing a lot of theories. We don't even know really what projectile it was. We have no idea about the angle. I mean, that was back when we had no information whatsoever.
Well, let me interrupt you for just a second. Let me interrupt you for just a second right there.
Yeah.
For any clown out there to come to the conclusion this is impossible before we even knew what the type of projectile is.
Right. Yeah.
Like that tells you all you need to know. Right there.
Right. And that's kind of where it started. Was then over the course of the next couple of weeks, you see, okay, well, these are like the main people that are discussing this. These are the theories that they're floating. And these are people that are completely qualified. And so then you start to chime in a little bit and you're like, oh shit, I just like put my dick in the hornet's nest here. Now I've got 1,000 of these bots in my comment section. And
don't do that.
Now, people are telling me I'm Jewish, and I'm like, trying to pull up a picture of my baptism photo or something. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? This is insanity. So, and, for me personally, I'm thinking, well, of all people, I'm the least likely to be paid by Israel. In fact, I'd probably be in violation of ITAR if that was the case.
Yeah.
So I can't have people making suggestions, that this is crazy. So, for me, that's why I guess I tend to have a short trigger these days with it, because it's been touched on so many times. And then, you see Ian Carroll when you got pictures of the bullet and he says it's an FMJ, and then real quick, wait, no, I'm sorry, it's not an FMJ, but we have an explanation for that too. And I just, I had my ex-father-in-law was like real deep into Q and was into, all the other conspiracies. I mean, I'm like, this is like kind of it was funny, but not really. It was actually very, very hard for me to watch somebody that I, thought he was a smart guy and was concerned about a lot of things politically. And so to see somebody kind of just get like dragged further and further into the weeds, I think it's a real problem. I think that we suffer from it on the right tremendously. And that's because, on the right, people tend to be independent thinkers. And so people want to be the guy who solves the problem. We want to be the one who has outthought everybody else, not because we want to be the best, maybe, but because we want to be the one that solves the problem. And I think that gets taken advantage of quite a bit on the right, and people don't realize it. And so, I just look at the people that are in charge of this thing. We got, a guy from Portland who was probably a shitlib his whole life until just now. And we have, I'll just say it, a DEI hire that the Conservative Party put in place because they thought that's what they needed a few years ago. They needed a Black female podcaster to give some credibility to the conservative side. And that's how we ended up with Candace Owens. And if you look at her background, she was anything but conservative. And so I've always been suspicious of those people. I'm a manufacturing guy. I can talk, but I'm not a podcaster. I'm not an influencer. I'm only here because, I ended up here in some weird manner. And so when I see people like them that are just completely unqualified, but have so much clout that somebody who actually is an expert in it can get dogpiled by them and ratioed and I don't care about that, like from a, I don't know, personal pride standpoint, but I care because I see people are being deceived by them. And I just, for me, it's hard for me to let it go. And then at some point you're just like, well, now all the gloves are off because they've accused me of literally everything in the world. And so why the fuck am I holding back anymore?
Yeah. And as someone that I've been to combat 4 times, Willie, I don't know what, Nate has been to combat multiple times.
Tour or two.
What's that, Willie?
Did a tour or two.
Yeah. So like when this is where this started, by the way. Before I ever knew who Candace, I knew who she was. I had no idea what she was doing. I was trying to investigate this and get to the bottom of this before I even knew what Candace was saying. And when I go out there and I tell people, look, guys, it's not an exploding microphone or which this was, I did do that, but hey, it's not a palm gun. You know what, Gary, you're a traitor to your country. You're paid by that immediately, like day 3. I'm just like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on here. Yeah. But what I can tell you is it's not a palm gun, and Rick Cutler's not shooting Charlie Kirk. And by the way, what we see is definitely not like some 30 caliber pistol round. There's too much energy going on. And they're like, you're paid by the Jews. I'm like, what? like you're paid by Israel. Like that came up almost immediately, and I had no idea like where this was even. And that was before I heard. That was really before Candace Owens or really anybody had started really promoting the idea that Israel was involved in this. So I was taken aback. I saw that, and then I saw that you're a Fed. So there was a disinformation in a personal smear campaign kind of already in place, because I don't think these people were real, to be honest with you. And I do think that this is a larger psychological operation. And going back to what you were saying earlier, Willie, you talked about January 6th. You talked about Biden administration weaponizing the DOJ. We had the 2020 election, I think, was stolen. We had the whole COVID. The American people have been traumatized by a government. All right. And that was a Joe Biden Democrat government, by the way. And I'm not saying there aren't holdovers from the deep state and things like that, but I think to hold Donald Trump, who I do believe is trying to change this country, accountable for what they did. And Donald Trump's not perfect. There's a lot of things I disagree with him on, but I'd much rather have him than someone like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any of those leftist, globalist, communist retards in. And if you don't think that China, Russia, Iran, and many other countries understand that the United States citizens are primed, especially the right who they want to stop, if you don't think they are primed and ready for a psychological operation like this, I got something to say. And I think that that's where we see a lot of this. I think a lot of it is being pushed. Nate and I went to a security brief in Washington, D.C. several weeks ago. They talked about this. We know that Russia has reduced, in the middle of a war where they have 1.4 million casualties, they have cut their military budget and they've increased their influence operation budget by 57%.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? How does that make sense? That tells you that they know where their ROI is better, their money is better spent. And that is they can destroy America from within. They don't have to launch one single missile, and they are trying their best to do this. Nate, you got anything on that real quick before I go to comments? Questions?
No, except I do think that some of the, look, it's like you were saying, America's primed, right? So there is some legitimate questions being asked, like what Willie's asking, like, man, that doesn't seem right. Seems like a 30-06 would fully penetrate.
Sure.
And that's a legitimate statement to make. It's
100%.
More often than not, that's a true statement. But then when people start asking those questions, then you get some, I think, legitimately not human people, like bots, essentially, commenting on things and saying shit like, oh, you're just a Fed slop, Fed peen gargling, you know what I mean? Or, I got called a CIA spook the other day. I've also been told, I'm taking the Jewish $7,000 per post, and I'm like, man, I really got to get my ACH and routing number fucking figured out, because I haven't received any of that yet, and I would like it if I could get it. You know what I mean? If they're going to pay me $7,000 a post, do I get back pay for the post I've already made? Because I could probably quit my job. But it's funny. It's like it's not real, and the people that go to that, like, I don't think that's anybody's real default kind of thought process. Like, if you disagree with me, obviously you're a Mossad agent.
I think it now is, but I do think that was seeded into the conversation. There are real people that say that, and they know that they don't have a substantive argument, and they know that they are coming at this they're just repeating what some retard like Ian Carroll said, or Nate from VFT has said, who doesn't know jack all about firearms at all. It's embarrassing that somebody that is a Green Beret knows as little as he does about firearms. And I went off on a rant on him earlier, but then on top of that, he just knowingly lies the way that he does. I find it reprehensible.
Gary, do you mind if I make it just a quick statement?
Sure. Go ahead, Willie, please.
First of all, to acknowledge, I'm sympathetic to the fact that you probably got a short fuse, because I'm sure your comment section is wild. I'm sure people are really aggressive in there. They're loose lipping it, and I'm sympathetic to you and the audience getting frustrated and maybe not. I guess giving me a chance initially, but what I really want to say is, and I brought this up not because I felt some type of way about it, or it bothered me particularly. I think more so, and hopefully this doesn't come off as disrespectful or unsolicited advice, but for your own good. And I'm not speaking directly to anybody, but just whoever's listening. Sure. I would just say, don't lay into people that are that are questioning things that maybe you yourself aren't questioning. And I say that because I forget if I mentioned this, but Gary, I've followed you for a long time for shooting purposes,
Sure.
and I respect your opinion. And again, I'm glad I'm on this show. But when people are dismissive of ideas or suggestions, it the same way you can be short fused because you have people in your comment section, rattling at you all day long.
Sure.
Someone like myself who does have questions, and maybe we don't agree 100%. We're not lockstep in what we think happened. When you are immediately dismissive and shut something down, I just feel like it does more harm. It not only does more harm than good, it's just counterproductive for yourself. So I'm not saying that I didn't mean to make that comment to be like, hey, don't dogpile on me because I got booty tickled in the comment section. I'm really saying I really wanted to bring that up because I don't want people to be so hostile and be so frustrated with the bots that are commenting daily that they won't hear out someone who is seeking to understand what's going on, and maybe is giving pushback on something that you believe. Or does that make sense? Am I communicating what I'm trying to say?
It makes perfect sense. And by the way, that's what the bots are trying to do, right? And the trolls. There's real
The
trolls.
intended goal, exactly. Yeah.
Like they are here to demoralize people and to create division where there shouldn't be any. And at the same time, like, look, for instance, I hear it all the time. Gary, you need to go back doing gun content. I liked you when you did that. Well, like, fine. First of all, I got a lot of gun content that you probably haven't watched. I'm not saying you again. I'm just saying in general. Like, this is my channel. I've always used it for what I want and what I think is important. And I think this is not only do I think this is important, I think it's existential, and I genuinely believe that. And what I will say is, I've never shut down Candace Owens. I've never shut down anybody like, oh, I'm just not going to listen to you. What I have done and why I am mentioned almost daily on Candace Owens' podcast is because I have systematically went through her claims and I have debunked them. Not on almost never mentioned anything personal. Probably the last few videos when she has come after me and a lot of other things have transpired, probably some more personal animus. But going into this, and for the first 10 videos that I made, or even for the first probably 50 live streams that I did talking about, this wasn't personal. And I have gone through and I've systematically debunked, and I'm telling people, and I'm trying to be a herald of saying, like, hey, folks, you're being lied to. And I know you're being lied to. And I'm trying to do that. And like, I know that I'm going to be attacked for that. And that's okay. I think the rest of what you're saying is absolutely valid. Like, sometimes the other thing is, I'm a Christian and I want to be able to do things in a way that pleases God. And sometimes that doesn't always happen, right? I get amped up on Twitter, start going after people in a way that sometimes I'm ashamed of, like, shouldn't have done that. But we're human. And I do think, and it's not, this is not, I get extremely animated about this, not because they're attacking me, because I genuinely think there are people that are knowingly trying to undermine our country. And genuinely, for instance, Tucker Carlson is the right-wing version of the global, like I've said this before, he is pushing something that is the globalist agenda that's repackaged for the right. And whether he thinks it is or not, if he thinks what he's trying to do is better for the country, I disagree with him. Just like the communists in the Democrat Party, and I make no delineation between the CCP and the Democrats. I think they're one and the same. They have the same beliefs, and they want to transfer power from the United States to the China, and that's what they're doing. And they may think that's good, but they are my enemy. Just straight up, they are my enemy, and I can't allow that because I know what's going to happen, and I'm not going to have a country left for my kids and my grandkids and for the next 250 years. Like, we've made it 250 years. It's time to stand up and push back. And we're going to get it right sometimes. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. But just like you, what I've always tried to do is dial it back a little bit, reel it in, try to temper my response to things. And at the end of the day, there's still a freaking door-kicking Green Beret that just wants to go out and smash people. And, sometimes you get nice Gary and sometimes you get asshole Gary. Proud moment to get blocked by Valhalla VFT on your YouTube. I used to think Gary was believing in Apollo nonsense, but no, he was mostly accurate on a lot of things about the Charlie Kirk case. Well, thank you, Larry. I appreciate you. I saw you in the comments earlier too. I know now from watching both sides that Gary is spot on with everything he says. I'm sick of Valhalla now, to be honest. And look, I'm seeing this comment, very similar comments like this a lot now.
Is there any way I can comment? I know I've been talking a lot, but
yeah, you know,
on the topic of Valhalla, I would also say, and again, I hope I'm not coming off like I'm trying to lecture. Or again, I am giving that. Okay,
I don't have any feelings. You can go hard.
Okay.
Go in the paint.
In the case of that guy, like we can agree, he's saying things that are objectively untrue, and there's 1.5 million reasons to criticize that guy. But today, and I'm going to pick on you for a second, Gary. Obviously not maliciously, but Valhalla posted a video, and then the Misfit Patriot kind of did an overlay of that video and described why he was wrong, and kind of went into detail about why the Valhalla gentleman is a fool, etc. But in that video, and you retweeted it, but in that video, he says, Misfit Patriot says so many absurd things. The 30-06 is a much larger bullet, or excuse me, the 300 Win Mag is a much larger bullet than the 30-06. What does that even mean? That doesn't even make sense. I would never hunt a moose with a 30-06. Like, no one hunts moose with 30-06. That's what everyone hunts moose with. So I guess I would say when you find yourself frustrated with someone like Valhalla, and you want to criticize him, just be weary of just hopping on another individual who's bashing him into the ground, because Misfit, the video that you retweeted, the guy sounds like a fool. Like Misfit Patriot in that video, he does not sound like he knows anything about firearms, ballistics, or any of the above. And I know obviously your intent was to shed light on, hey, this Valhalla guy is not being truthful. He's being dishonest about what he's telling you all. You should not trust this guy. And that's probably why you retweeted it, because you don't want people listening and being caught up in lies. But in the process, I would just say try not to lose your sense of self retweeting other people who are not knowledgeable, and are kind of equally as bad faith, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, I think that is a very good criticism. I'll be honest, I watched about 20 seconds of that video. Probably should have watched the whole thing to know what he's talking. And it wasn't about Valhalla. I don't even, when I retweeted, I don't even know that I knew that he was talking about Valhalla. Maybe I did, I don't remember. But the overarching point there was not about Valhalla. It was about the fact that it was just about the fact about the ballistics. So it wasn't even, when I retweeted, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get Valhalla now. Like, it was more like, hey, this is important. This is the conversation that we're having here. So there's that, I guess. That's
totally reasonable.
And look, I try to be careful with that, careful about who I retweet, and I do try to, but sometimes I don't. And you got me good.
No, I hope that didn't come off as a gotcha. I'm just really trying to. Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, you come on my show, you just run me through the mud.
No, I genuinely am not trying. That obviously, I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I just want, I just know that there's so many people that are lockstep on so many things, and we just people that lean right and people that are conservatives that really agree on so much, but we will kill each other over the details. We will slit each other's throats over these minute details for things that we don't even fully understand ourselves. And I guess I really came on the show to just be like, God, let's turn it down a little bit and let's listen to one another, because a lot of us are being reasonable. And I'm not accusing you nor your audience of being the opposite, the inverse of that. I just know that in general, the conservative online culture, it is so cutthroat right now. And I don't want us to fracture so much that we cannot, that we're screwed, and we're forever split over something like this. But that's all.
Yeah, no, I think those criticisms are fair. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, but that's good. Motorized Ramblings, Willie, glad to see you on. You were showing good faith, and you have my respect for that. He is. It's been great to have you on, Willie, and I mean that. If you haven't seen it yet, Benny Johnson was in court today and commented about the video they showed that we didn't get to see. Check out his tweet. I did, and I reposted that. I don't like Benny Johnson. I don't like reposting the stuff that he posts, but I said, hey, I'm not a big fan of Benny, but this is a great video. If you haven't seen it yet, I already did that one. Did they do it twice? Thank you for all your work these last 2 months. Having sane people not brainwashed by Candace Owens kept me from losing all faith in humanity. Love y'all. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you, Caitlin. Ballistics tonight. I'm so happy. I could almost cry. Thanks, Gary, Willie, Nate, and Justin. All have had questions about this too. Agreed. Officer Tatum just released a video saying there's a video of Tyler taking the shot along with Jack and Benny Johnson. Yeah, so let me just clarify. I had a conversation earlier with somebody on the other side of this. To be fair, we don't have a video, and I don't even think they're claiming this, of that person taking the like zoomed in. We can see muzzle flash, we can see recoil or whatever else. What they're saying is that we have a video of this person, allegedly Tyler Robinson, most likely, very likely. All right, Tyler Robinson getting in position at the exact same moment, and then you can clearly see this person's in the prone position, and right when the shot goes off, and then right after they get up. What they're not saying, and hopefully, because this was the criticism, was like, you can't see him taking a shot. I don't think that's what we're saying. But even at the beginning of, and this is why the goalpost constantly moves, and I think this is where we're frustrated, because we're constantly seeing deceptive and dishonest behavior. It's like there was no video. Like if they would have had it, they would have shown that. They didn't have it. All they had is him running off the roof and getting down. That video didn't exist. We didn't have video of him turning himself in. There's no video of that. They got rid of that. Lots of examples of this. So we were told that, Tyler Robinson turned himself in at 6:25. He was already in custody and being interrogated at 6:25 on September 11th. That's a lie. That can't be found anywhere. And by the way, that was refuted by evidence and testimony on the stand. So just because Baron Coleman says it's true and he's not held to account, and he comes up with some creative, weird con, quite frankly, it is just not true. That carries no weight with me. But when somebody is actually on the stand and they're testifying to it, and by the way, the court documents back this up, by the way, you put those two things together, now we have evidence that you have a 90% chance of trusting versus 10% over here that just making things up. Thank you, Gary. Hey, Justin, how about a coupon code? Don't actually do that. We will get shut down right away. I'm sure maybe on his website or something you can do that. But for promoting,
send me a DM. I want to hear you beg.
Give me $3 off a $400 order. Come on. How about this? How about you? Because I'm just busting your balls a little bit, but because Justin is a small business out there going on the record and trying to provide a service, how about you pay him a little more?
Yeah, I'm going to add a tip option at checkout if you want to buy me a cup of coffee.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to support small businesses,
that's right. That's right.
Pay them a little more. Now I lost my place because we got something added to this. Thank you, Gary. Hey, Justin. We already got that one. No, GMB is awesome, by the way. Not 30-06, but I was shot in a hunting accident at 15 from 10 feet away. MIT hit lower spine and lodged in the stomach. 50 cal muzzleloader, the 90 grain of powder. Stuff happened. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're lying. Well, that was the crazy thing. I think you were around during the Chuck Ritter saga, Justin, weren't you?
Yeah.
So out of the blue, this guy I never heard of, Chuck Ritter, he had just retired, and he gets injected into this argument on Twitter, and he's like, yeah, this is not crazy to me. I was shot from 25 yards away with 7.62 by 54. And they're like, you're a liar. That never happened. He's like, I literally have video of it. We had helmet cam during this firefight in Afghanistan. He produces the helmet cam footage. You can see it happen. They're like, yeah, it wasn't 7.62 by 54. And then he shows literally his medical records. Yeah, you're lying. And then he shows pictures of what took place. And it's like, they will just reject it. Like, this is impossible. But as soon as you show them that it's not impossible, or if you their argument starts off, it hit him in the neck, his head would have exploded like something on a movie. It would have went through him 100% every single time. And they're like, well, what about Martin Luther King? Well, he was hit in the jaw first. like, who cares? How do you know that would have went through if it didn't hit him in the jaw? And by the way, Martin Luther King was shot exactly half the distance. All right. So and by the way, was the rifle that Martin Luther King was shot with, what was the muzzle velocity on that? What was the ammo type on that? Is there, did we start off, number one, we already start off at a deficit because we're twice the distance away. And then, by the way, he might have been shooting something slower to begin with.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
We're pushing up against the hard line for Justin.
Okay. He's going to stay here till I tell him to go.
I wish I could. I've got another podcast at 10 o'clock. I got to get on. So I got to get
No worries. Justin, leave everybody with some final words. We're not going anywhere, folks. We're just kicking Justin out of here.
No problem. I appreciate you guys having me on. You can find us at phenixammo.com or at Fenix Ammunition on Twitter. That's our only social media. We like to chop it up, talk some shit, talk shooting, ballistics, all kinds of different stuff, manufacturing. So feel free to check us out, and we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Hey, Justin, we really appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your courage to speak out and to kind of hold the line on what you think is true, regardless of all the attacks. I know you and Ian Carroll have become besties. But no, seriously, I mean it. We need more people like you with the courage to speak out. And I'm just glad that you're around. And I'm gonna have to come visit you. I was just up in Detroit area recently.
Yeah.
I was born. And
Hi, man.
I have to come visit the plant. Would love to see what you got going on up there.
Hell yeah, brother.
All
Thanks,
right, man.
guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care, man. Hey, Gary, I'm going to head out of here too, if you don't mind.
You can do whatever you want, Willie.
My dog's going to kill me if I don't take him for a lap. So I appreciate you having me on. I'm just a YouTube commenter that you let voice his opinion, and there's so few people that would be willing to do that. So I really do appreciate it. You gave me a lot of things to think about that I hadn't considered, in particular the angle and how that changes how much material obviously that round is passing through. So I appreciate you. Hopefully I didn't make an ass of myself, and I hope y'all have a good rest of the show.
Welcome back anytime.
Willie?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, y'all.
Willie,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to let you know that the chat was very welcoming, and they have asked you to come back. You are now part of the DL family.
Okay. So I'm not gonna have my feelings hurt when I look later at these comments.
I'm gonna cut up so many videos making you look like shit after this. It's gonna be hilarious.
No.
Hey, you can't tag me because you don't know my social, so that's all right. That's okay.
I'll find you.
All right, boys. Y'all have a good one. Thank you, Jen.
Welcoming.
Take care, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Colton, well, thank you, buddy. That's very generous. You're the man. Colton's a big supporter of the channel. I will immediately counter anyone claiming that the shot can be replicated. To do that, you need the gun, the same ammo, the same lot ammo, the same angle and distance, a bullet going into real flesh with fluid, with pressure, cartilage, bone, and flexible spine. And even then, you're going to get a wide variability. It's just the way that ammunition works. And when people say, well, just Gary, go prove it and replicate it. I'm like, you're beginning at a knowledge deficit that's going to take too long so I'm just going to go with the default. You're retarded and move on to the next person.
Yesterday, I told somebody came to me with the same thing, and I'm like, why don't you go steal it from the evidence locker? And then when you do, we'll make a collab. And they were like, I hope you're not serious. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Sarcasm is not your strong suit, but yeah. Okay.
100%. GMB. I missed this one. Willie, the reason some people are hostile is because the TARs are constantly saying 30-06 would decapitate him, fed slop. That's their entire position, and that is right. And that gets frustrating, especially people that are a little nerdy about this. So GMB, 20 Paramount Tactical memberships. Thank you, buddy. You are the man. We're going to come see you up in Tennessee sometime, and I mean that. I figured the gun was a post-war conversion, rebarreled from 8mm Kurz to 30-06. If it was an 8mm, is larger bore, so that could explain an unstabilized projectile. Do we know the exact chambering? Yes, according to the ATF professionals, they said it was rechambered. It was a pre-World War II action that was rechambered in 30-06. So I think they know what they're talking about. The ATF, the best agency on the planet.
They know everything about firearms.
They know everything about firearms. They know everything about it. You know, to their defense, there are a lot of people that are gun folks in the ATF and obviously don't agree with many things. I have a friend that works for the ATF. But with that being said, their leadership are just retarded when it comes to guns. They don't know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of subject matter experts that they have hired that they just don't listen to. So we end up with a lot of goofy laws and everything else. We respect you from coming on to converse with us, Willie. Yes, we do. Justin, I always forget these acronyms. Good to see you from Royal Oak. Gary, you're our guy. Nate, I defended you to a troll last week. You didn't ask me to, but shit had called me granny. I was streaming. LOL. That I'm not that old. All good though. Thanks for following me back. Go Lions.
I saw that.
Lynn is awesome. We're going to go visit her in Michigan as well. I was up there recently. She ignored me. I was like, hey, you know, we want to meet my family. She's like, I ain't got time for you, you scrub, freaking obscure YouTuber. I'm just joking. She responded very kindly. I know from personal experience, the spine is actually very strong until you twist and lift in the incorrect way.
That's pretty funny.
Exactly. Mad respect for Willie. I agree. I didn't think he was going to show up. I'm glad he did. He's a good dude. Gary Sinden, love your way. I'm glad you spoke out about the Valhalla VFT, the fraud, and Jesse on Fire, and the high-heeled wearing little man. I don't know what you mean by the high-heel wearing little man. Is that Ian? I don't know. Does he wear high heels?
I'm not sure either.
I died. Jared referred to Ian as the pizza delivery boy with the deviated septum, completely slayed me. Lovely. Man, we're getting all the love and support tonight. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. Gifted 20 Paramount Tactical memberships. Lovely 1976. Willie, kind of cute. Can we have him on again? Oh, dear God. Willie, you clearly need to start an OnlyFans because Anna will be right there. Thanks to all you guys for coming on. Willie, do you believe in bullet yaw would cause a keyhole effect upon entry and would tumble worse when it hit bone, barrel, maybe shot out? Thanks in advance. Sorry we didn't get that sooner. I'm sure he does know about bullet yaw. I'm not sure he considered this going into the conversation, but I guarantee you as an NRL hunter, he probably knows that. I just want to shake the man's hand. Much respect for Gary. Yep, it's always great to have dissenting voices on, and you know, I think that was great. I'm taking bets on Gary. Says inches penetration and meat in the
Daily.
SK. Guys, this is good, but you're all making this far more complicated than this. Bullet may exit 2,000 times than not on 2001, but what do I know? An old futter hunter since an 06 user. I mean, you're not wrong. Their argument is that it wouldn't have happened on this one chance, and the real argument is weird things happen. I mean, they just do. And
there's like, look, this is the funniest part to me is there used to be a time before the internet where if a crime happened, we would wait for the government to present their argument before we would argue with the argument, right? And we had a bunch of people arguing with an argument they didn't even know what it was. And now all this evidence comes out and there's a bunch of people going, oh, I didn't know that. And it's like, well, yeah, you probably should have waited. And, you know, you probably should have waited before you got totally committed. And like our argument is pretty simple. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, right? We didn't come out and say this happened for a fact. We know it did. It had to have happened. But all these people that are committing to things as if it's like a certainty, you know, the 30-06 cannot stop ever. It is the hammer of Thor laser. It shoots through mountains and schools, and nothing stops it. No, it isn't. You know what I mean? Like it stops some things. It's not the hammer of Thor. It does stop sometimes, and you know you can't really predict when or how and what. But you know, a soft lead tip bullet doesn't take much.
Look, if you've been to combat. And you've seen people in firefight, you know, crazy things, the most unlikely things. Like I know there are people in my old company that were actually hit in the helmet. The round went around, and like this isn't like that's not a anecdotal story, as in just one. All right, it is fairly anecdotal, but like we know those types of weird things happen. I know guys that had a round go into their kit through here, go underneath the freaking plates, and actually pass out, and like. like weird things like that happen that are so infinitesimally small a chance of taking place, but it happens. And by the way, like we see that in the everyday world all the time.
Yeah. Well, like, you know, my personal one is one time that I didn't get hit with something.
Yeah.
I had a 120 millimeter mortar round land like basically right next to me. And I was standing up and I was like, you know, I had to like look around and be like, am I going to turn around and see my lifeless body behind me? Like I had, you know, I was like, there's no way I didn't get hit. And I'm like checking my balls and whatever else, you know, and I'm like, I'm still here. I guess I better go find cover, you know, but it, you know, and statistically, there's no reason I shouldn't have been hit with something at all, but I wasn't. It's weird, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, and if you took, you know, did a survey of guys and, you know, listened to those stories, like almost everybody that spent any significant amount of time in combat has some weird shit that has happened that doesn't make any sense, but it does happen.
Couldn't agree more. Just a fact of life. In the world of science, we can't call something confirmed unless we have a repeatable result with a controlled test environment. Hence why this shot would be very hard to replicate. It is. It's almost impossible to replicate. You might do it on the first try. I don't know. But like to me, unless you have all the elements of, it's not even worth doing. It's just a waste of time. Willie, if you agree with Gary, there are some people who would like to date you. If not, I will not allow it. There you go, Gary. Willie. I took it off the toilet. Don't worry about that, Gary. I took it off. I must have missed something there. Okay, just last chat. If a bullet hits you at an odd angle, it acts the same as an angled tank armor.
Yes.
There's deflection that takes place for sure. And again, the reason they angle tank armor is not only for the deflection, but actually we take a
increase
1-inch piece of steel. We put it at a 45. It makes it like what, 1.5 inches or something like that. So the thickness is increased once we increase angle. Okay, let's see it. Is Willie going to agree and get a date or what? Let's go, Willie. Free Willie. If it was a 30-06 and the prosecution's own witness was incorrect about the diameter of the bullet, 286 to 301. So how's a 30-06, which is 308 to 309? Well, what the prosecution's own witness said was due to damage and distortion. That was the range that they would get. That's what she said on this. Somebody else said this the other day. Like, matter of fact, I'm going to pull up this tweet because this just shows either ignorance. What this person actually said was just deceptive and just crooked. I'm not calling you deceptive or crooked. I'm calling you ignorant. No offense, but you are. That's not what the person said. And I actually have a video of it. I went through the time to actually pull up a video of exactly what she said. So let's me find this tweet and this clip. And it's probably in my replies. And I'm just going to go through here forever and not find it. Yeah, let me go up to my replies. Things are so hard to find on Twitter, just like on one. Entertain them with something, Nate, while I'm doing this.
Well, I'm actually talking a little smack to people on X right now. Somebody already quoted this podcast, and they're like, "Thanks for the slop."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just throw them a salute and blow them a kiss. You know what I mean? That's like my
Thanks for the slop. You guys are taking the time to explain your position, even though I just say, oh, it's impossible.
Slop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the, yeah.
Yeah.
We're up here actually having a conversation. That idiot comes in with a three-word response.
Let me see if I can find it this way. Oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. Perfect example. I'm glad you brought this up so I can show everybody what real slop looks like, by the way. All right. So let me show everybody this tweet. Here we say, Bob Loblaw, 286 to 301, Mr. Meltdown. That was the potential diameter. We just DJ'd that word right in there of the round based on the analysis of the fragment. Tell me how that makes a 308 a viable round to have shot Charlie Kirk Take your time. Maybe re-examine your government contract to make sure the non-disparagement clause doesn't extend to other government agencies. I'll wait. And let's take a look at Bob Loblaw. All right, 311 followers, joined April 26th. Looks like we're in the United States, connected to web. Maybe a real person. Probably is. All right, but let me explain what I said to this. And I said, you get your own post. That lion scumbag I reference is you. Pay attention to how these scumbags twist the truth. Potential diameter was never said. The expert measured 286 to 301 inches and gave a range due to the damage and deformity to the base. They smuggle lies into the facts, hoping you won't notice. Liars, all of them. And that is true. So let's listen to what the expert had to say. I am showing this video, right?
The range of the for the 6A bullet jacket fragment was 0.286 to 0.301 inches.
Okay, what page are you looking at?
It's page 13.
Okay. And did you have some difficulty because
Hold
of
on,
the
hold
damage?
on. Did she say potential?
The range of the diameter for the 6A bullet jacket fragment was 0.286 to 0.301 inches.
Okay, what page are you looking at?
It's page 13.
Okay. And did you have some
Potential in there.
range to the bullet in exactly measuring it?
The reason I provided a range was because of the damage and deformity to the base. So at times it wasn't a perfect circle. So it was important to me to give a range of what those diameter measurements were.
Oh, did you hear potential diameter in there anywhere?
I did not.
It's wild. And by the way, we can look at the freaking bullets. We can look at exactly what's going on with this. And luckily, I still have them pulled up. But let's take a look at this. Look at this. All right. You see that? You see how it might be hard to get what exactly we're talking about. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure if this is the test fire bullets on this one. I think this is definitely the one that I actually pulled. These might be test fire ones. I'm not sure, but it is either way, it's illustrative of what we got going on there. So there we go. I mean, how are you going to get a diameter off of this thing? It's all damaged all the way around. And by the way, go ahead.
Here's something too that I think he's not considering. He hears the term 308.
Mm-hmm.
Now the bullet is 0.308 inches in diameter before it goes through the barrel. The bore diameter is 0.300.
Yeah.
So it actually gets squeezed down, elongated, and shrunk. Its diameter decreases, and they do that to seal in gases. So if it's 0.301, that's right in line with where it should be. That guy's a dumbass.
I hadn't thought of that, and I knew that. I just didn't even think about it. So there you are. You're all over it. Willie's mind is now changing. I like Willie being man enough to come on, and he isn't too hard-headed. I agree. He's a reasonable person. That's what we want to reach. Look, we're not going to change the cultists' minds. Very few of them. And matter of fact, I'm not that interested. If they do come over here, I might welcome them. Most of them are just like, yeah, you should stay over there. But it's the reasonable among us that we do want to address and make sure that more people don't fall into this whatever this is. Gary, that's not allegedly. That is what was retrieved from Charlie. I know. I was joking around. I even had if you talk to the feds, the pod sloppers, all right, Baron Coleman is saying that they actually took a pre-fired round, and when they were in the transport vehicle to the hospital, they shoved that down into his neck. That's what they're telling people. So we're clear. I even had a good friend growing up, got shot in the neck by her boyfriend, paralyzed from the waist down, didn't exit though. Lots of weird things happen. Being assassinated is not common. Can we point that out? Yeah. I mean, what is the odds of Charlie Kirk being assassinated? Pretty low, but it happened. Interested to hear how the engravings on the casing that was fired might have affected the shot. Engraving. Oh, so we're talking about, I have talked about this. One of the things, and this is probably not the best picture of it. There's a better picture of the actual engravings, but we can see there on some of these engravings were actually much deeper than I was expecting. And that is going to affect. That's going to affect the consistency from one shot to another. Is it enough to probably matter at 140 yards? Probably not, but it could. And the other thing that you really have to consider is as deep as some of those engravings were, I'd be worried about the actual case breaching, right? And we have that actually take place. So It has an effect. I don't know if it was, material to what happened or not. Could be, but when you start
one of those areas where nobody studied the effects of engraving shell casings prior to shooting them enough to the point where we could say anything intelligently. Like
I know that what we do when we're reloading, we're trying to make precision ammunition, is we're making every single case, the thickness of it, the weight of it, the overall trim length of it. We're trying to take out all the possible variables so that we have as consistent ammunition. I will take consistent ammunition over inconsistent ammunition that groups better. Like, that's what we're looking for. I want consistency, muzzle velocity. I will tell you, if I start engraving on that casing, and I do that from one casing to the next, number one, all those things are going to be different. Even compared to ones that aren't, we're probably going to get a higher standard deviation of muzzle velocity almost for sure.
I would think the big concern for me is I've heard about people throwing loaded reloads into their like vibratory tumbler to clean them up after they reload them.
Yeah.
And, it says on the vibratory tumbler, don't put live ammunition in here, because you can actually break the powder, the gunpowder granules down and create pressure differences and variations.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing that I would think. It would produce some velocity differences based on how it affected that powder inside the case. But that's how much, I don't know. It's not like engraving that would be an hour's worth of tumbling, or, I don't know. I don't know what that would do, because I'm not dumb enough to engrave my live shell casings. So
Nate, prove it, bro.
No, well, I'm not going to engrave shell casings.
Engrave on the ammo and prove it to us. Like, how about how about you go do that?
Yeah, go ahead. You know what I think we should do, Gary? I think me and you should invite Ian Carroll on a hog hunt in Texas. We'll go on a hog hunt, and we'll only shoot 150 grain core locks, and we'll only take neck shots, and then we'll do postmortems with him.
I'm down.
We just got to find a place.
Got like 5 million followers or something. He can pay for it too. So
absolutely, yeah. Get every one of them to throw in $1, and we'll have the greatest hog hunt ever.
Exactly. Ian, there's your invitation, bud. Thanks, Willie, Gary, Justin, and Nate for having this conversation. Charlie would be proud. That's what he fought for us to do and challenged us to do.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, we've been having these conversations and talking about the issues. It's the other side that doesn't want to do that. Thank you, Jennifer Casarini. We appreciate you very much. When my husband was a cop, he went to a call where a guy was shot in the head. It was a 25 caliber, hit him in the forehead and split in two, traveled on either side of his forehead toward temples. Yeah, I actually, I had a ex-uncle who was shot in the head with a 22, and it did the exact same thing. One half of that round, or a piece of that round, stayed in his brain. The other half shot up through the ceiling, and he's still walking around. He wasn't very stable then, and I don't think that contributed to, I don't know, maybe it made him better. Maybe it changed his personality. Maybe he's a better person now. I used the Remington Core Lock 180 grain or 220 grain for my 30-06, which I use for mule deer and elk. Many times I never had an exit, but the design of the bullet is to destroy internally. That's right. It's designed to dump that energy, to break apart, to mushroom. And one way to show a good shot from terrible shot and good and gun condition, look at someone's target at 100 yards. I sent Gary a message on X. I'll check it out, Colton. Thank you. Would the barrel condition combined with engravings on the bullet have an effect on the impact? Absolutely, it could. It could. I mean, barrel condition is the bigger element here. Like Nate and I are saying, it's reasonable to assume that we will have some variation in muzzle velocity, because that cartridge is going to be expanding differently from an engraved one to it. I don't know what that effect actually is, but the main element here, it's not that big of a difference at 140 yards. I mean, this is just not a long shot at all. I have a video of me taking a 140-yard shot from the standing at a much smaller target. The target's this wide. Not first round hit. But the barrel condition, absolutely. That's the huge element here. Like, we might be able to take his gun, shoot that exact same ammo, and get tumbling rounds every single time. If that round's tumbling when it hits the target, it's not going to pass through.
Well, something I thought of too the other day was, I was like, we talked about like too slow of a twist, but you can also have, with those thin jacketed rounds, you can have too fast.
Yeah.
Right. If you're spinning that thing so fast that the centripetal force is almost ripping that round apart as it's flying through the air, and then it hits something solid, it just basically disintegrates, right?
Yeah.
So there is like a range of stabilization. You can overdo it, not necessarily for flight, but when you hit something, if you want it to perform, really thin jacket and lead. The reason we wrap it in copper is because lead wouldn't survive.
Mm-mm.
It would just come out and turn to dust.
Yep.
It's not as much for, they didn't originally do that because they were concerned about what happens when it hits the target. They were concerned about it getting it out of the barrel without it destroying itself.
Well, and you could even see that with the way that guns have evolved. For instance, 308, they used to be, I think it started off as 1 in 14. Don't quote me on that, but I know like 1 in 12, 11.8, that was kind of standard for a long time. And then it went to 1 in 10. And the reason, look, faster twists for heavier bullets are better. But the reason they started off with those slower twist rates was for this reason alone. You spun them any faster, older technology when it came to bullet development, they would just fall apart. Now, like for instance, all the SOCOM 308s, which they're phasing them out, but all the MRADs that were in 308, those are 1 in 8 twist. And it's because they can spin them faster, which gives us better transonic performance primarily. But they're getting better precision now. But you couldn't have done that even like 10 years ago. You couldn't have spun a 308 bullet at 1 in 8. It would just disintegrate. We
They
still
shooting
see that
solid
happen.
coppers? They're shooting solid coppers out of those?
No, they're not. They're
No?
shooting 118 LR.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Gifted 50 pair GMB. You're the man, dude. Thank you very much. You are the man. A transfer lover taking him out adds up to me. Like you talk about Occam's razor, like
yeah, it
just all makes sense. And we were talking about earlier how we can't say 100% that it was a 30-06. I'll tell you, the more information we have, the more the evidence corroborates that's exactly what took place. As a matter of fact, I think we're at a point. I just don't even know where we can like insert some other conspiracy. Are we saying that he shot with a different rifle? There's a guy that pushes this idea. I talked to him many times on X Spaces. He believes it was a folding AR. He actually shot him. He thinks Tyler Robinson did it, but he shot him with a folding AR, which I don't know why, because we have pictures of him jumping off the roof with something that's not a folded AR under a black towel. That's very clear. And that he had already pre-positioned the 30-06 to throw them off for some reason. Like, I don't know why that. I don't know why we add that complexity. Willie is here in good faith, but it's not a question of how often a 30-06 reacts. All you're trying to prove is its statistical probability, which even a few high-profile cases accomplish. I agree. It's like once you say Martin Luther King, done. Then we add in.
You only got to show it once to prove impossible is not the word you can use, right? And that's. I think Willie was very fair. I think he just kind of misunderstood. Maybe before he came in here, he misunderstood our point of view, which is like, dude, we're saying the same thing. We're not saying it's likely. We're just saying it's possible.
Gary, I've seen an analysis. You didn't see an analysis. You saw a piece of content that was intentionally made that was BS. And no, it wasn't November. It was more like October. So look, this is what really happened. It wasn't a matter of, I really had no doubt that 30-06 was always a possibility. What I saw originally from the first, and people that have been following me for this entire time, no. All right. What it looks like when Charlie's hit, it looks like he's hit higher in the chest, and then we see the wound. All right. It looked like to me that we had some sort of ballistic deflection. That's what it looked like to me. And it made a lot of sense. It's a very credible, plausible explanation, but we're trying to see this different high speed. Now, I put that video out on September 11th. I saw the first video that I had. It was the only video that was out of time. I'm like, man, that looks like we have a deflection. There's a lot of things going on there that easy to interpret. And there's a lot of people that were in my same line of work. They're like, yeah, Gary, I think that makes sense too. By the next day, I was getting some text of a different field of view where it showed Charlie Kirk, and we can see his nipples now. So I'm like, it doesn't look like he has body armor. And that night, the same day that I put out that video in the morning, that night I had a live stream. I was like, hey, folks, I'm showing you now this video that I just got. It doesn't look like he has. Matter of fact, let me just throw this up here for context. I think it's important. Nope, that's not what I want. Charlie footage and shirt movement. It's in there too, I know. All right, let me show you this right here. Of course, the picture that I wanted to show is not there. Maybe it's in here. Are you kidding me right now? I'll find it. You all just hold. Oh, there we go. There we go. Right there. Folks, look at this. Look at this. Come to find out, my analysis was wrong. All right. But it looks like, Nate, I mean, is it fair to say upon initial, like there could potentially be a low profile vest underneath there?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we know that's not true now. I know that. And by the way, I've had that confirmed. Now, we have that, and I came out that night and said, hey, folks, I don't think that he actually had a vest, or like it looks like he didn't have a vest. Then I got a reporter that called me and said, Gary, I confirmed, 2 different reporters, by the way, and I've shown the text. One of them happened to be Ryan Matta, which I didn't even publish because I knew it was BS. And even then, I didn't even have an opinion of him. I just knew he was like shady. I had another one, Tony Saruga. I'll just tell you right now. Tony Saruga DM'd me and said, hey, Gary, I was just talking to somebody that was close to Charlie that said that he was wearing a vest and was a low profile, and they spent a bunch of money on this, and he called it his stealth vest, and da-da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, well, maybe he was wearing a vest, and now they don't want to talk about it because maybe they're sponsored by this company or whatever else, and maybe they have an NDA, or they don't want them to say that the vest caused this, lots of things. And then we go on, we see Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly is on a show very shortly after this with Mikey McCoy, and she's sitting next to him, and they're kind of closing down. They did this interview. They talked about everything that happened. She's like, well, you know, we know he had a vest on, and, you know, it's really a shame that this still happened in spite of that. And he doesn't really respond. And so, like, this is like 2 weeks after this. Oh, and then I had 2 other law enforcement that were in press conferences that said, like, yeah, you know, he was wearing ballistic. So this rumor was out there. And then I was like open to it. And by the way, like, they do make extremely low profile, expensive ballistic vests that literally you can get custom fit to you. So that was a possibility. It ended up being wrong. And every time I spoke about it after that first day, I was like, hey, look, I still kind of think there's a vest here. And then I finally got a hold of Brian Harpool, probably late October, something like that, early November. So this person is actually probably right. I don't remember the timeline. I think that's when I finally got a hold of him. And that was one of the first things I was like, Brian, you know, I talked to him. We were talking about him coming on the show, doing an interview. I was like, you know, shoot me straight. And if you don't want me to tell anybody, I won't. Was Charlie wearing any sort of ballistic protection? He's like, Gary, he wasn't. I promise you. He's like, we have been trying to get him to wear ballistic protection. He's like, I'm not sure where all these rumors came from. Even people within the organization, he said, we're saying things like this, and it just wasn't true. So that was like, okay, then it wasn't a vest. I had already started exploring the ballistics, the terminal ballistics. I've already started exploring the possibility, and I was just left with one option left. It's like, he wasn't wearing a vest. We have removed that from the table, and he was shot with a 30-06. And because I couldn't find any evidence of any other shooter or anything else, this is what we have. So that's what happened. So that's, yeah, if there was any big switch, that was it. I had to let go of a theory that I was holding on to that I thought was correct, and it was wrong.
You know what's funny is people think that, like, they're oh, that's a flip-flop. And I'm like, it's called being honest when you go, hey, I thought it may have been something, and then I saw evidence that it wasn't, so now I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you should do.
Why is Candace Owens, she said 100% the French killed Charlie Kirk and one Israeli. We gotta shoehorn in the Jew, one Israeli, shoehorn in the Jew. Freaking little hat wearer. You gotta have those on the kill team. She went from that to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next. So she's not flip-flopping. It's okay for her to change her mind. It's okay for Ian Carroll to go out there and for months say that this picture that was posted by the New York Times is a stock photo. It can't be. It's a World War I relic, all these things, and completely get that wrong. And I've been pushing back on them. And now we know, look, the same picture that the ATF just released is the exact same picture, same rifle, different picture. It's flipped on the other side, same box. It's the same rifle. He lied to everybody. And not only did he lie about it being a stock photo, he went further and said it's a stock photo. And by the way, the New York Post has already released a whole thing saying that they admitted that it was a stock photo. That never happened. So it was one lie, and he added on another lie to cover his original lie. And the whole point behind that was he was trying to tell people, again, you got to look at the false narrative behind the lie. What's motivating it? And that is, he wanted people to believe that they're saying it's a World War I relic. In his feeble little mind, that means it couldn't have possibly taken the shot, even though that in of itself isn't true, but a lot of people bought into that. And the picture that we're seeing is a modern rifle because he said, it had a composite stock. So it couldn't be that rifle. The composite stock on a Mauser means it couldn't be that rifle.
That's where Nate from Valhalla VFT came in and said, you can't change the stock on a rifle. And yeah, I guess fucking 2 screws and righty tighty lefty loosey is a little too complicated for.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Well, if you followed Gary for a long time, how did you miss the hours of videos of 30-6? Just say that is a good question.
It's fair.
Relevant question. How did you miss that? At the time, Willie, you weren't here asking questions. You were telling us there absolutely would be an exit wound, and we were stupid to believe otherwise. Them fighting words. That is true. And on top of that, and I wish Willie was still here so he can defend. He was saying I did see that because Jen showed me some of the comments. The other thing that was going on is like, hey, we're not talking about ballistics right now, and we're talking about everything other than the ballistics, and he kind of wouldn't let that go, which was fair. Gary is a truth teller, Willie. Thank you very much, Karma. Willie, at some point you have to move past I just have questions part and accept that your questions have been truly and thoroughly answered, and then that is the problem. It's like you won't they change up the question as if they ask it in a different way, they'll come up with a different answer. It's like, but you're saying it's possible. Yeah, I'm saying it's possible, but wouldn't his head explode? No, his head wouldn't explode. Well,
and that is something that is very consistent with terminal ballistics is like the permanent wound cavity. Yeah. Everybody gets, there's all kinds of variabilities with the temporary wound cavity, but the temporary wound cavity is by definition temporary. Goes away, collapses back in on itself, and then you have a permanent wound cavity, and it's usually slightly larger or about the same size as the projectile or whatever size the projectile deforms to, right? So if you can show me a 30-06 150 grain round that produces a 9-inch permanent wound cavity, then I might start to believe that it would, take someone's head off. But other than that.
And we have a perfect example of this, why that's not true. I know he brought up 300 Win Mag earlier, talking about whatever Patriot Misfit or whatever.
Misfit Patriot, yeah.
Thomas Crooks, we know for a fact, was shot with 300 Win Mag about 125 yards away. It hit him in the mouth, went out his lower back. I have the pictures of it. I know what it looks like. Yeah, we had an exit wound for sure on that, but his head didn't explode. All right. I feel like was it Hot Fuzz? Hot Fuzz? Isn't there a place that a man you could shoot where if you shoot it just right, his head will explode? That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. Hot Fuzz. I'm just going to start calling people Hot Fuzz. Thanks, Hot Fuzz. Willie, I think you're a great American. Please sit up in this podcast and be a man. You may not understand, but sitting with arms folded means two things. Either you're absolutely correct or you're waiting for unacceptable feedback, in my opinion. Go easy, Gary. He's just like, we're going to keep this thing informal.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing Willie at all. I think he was, honestly,
I enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah, and it honestly takes a lot of courage to come in with a bunch of people you don't know in public.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the risk of getting, receiving kind of a public beatdown, not beatdown physically, but you know what I mean? So I give the guy a lot of credit for coming in here, genuinely.
Yeah, I agree. The projectile hit in the Arctic caused the projectile to deflect into the spine and cause the projectile to mushroom instantly, like shooting into a gallon of water. Don't know the density of blood versus water, but I'm pretty sure blood is more dense. I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you. I'd almost bet that blood is slightly less dense. I mean, it's mostly water, but I don't know that. It's a great question. That's some barstool trivia there. The other thing too that we did talk about the other night is people think that if a round is hitting in this direction, so let's say this is, well, you know what? Let's do a windshield. All right. So when a round hits a windshield, people automatically think that it's going to deflect upward. The opposite is true. When a round hits something that is angled upward like this, it will go through. If it passes through, it's going to deflect downward. So when we teach people how to shoot through windshields, we actually have them aim about 8 inches high. So between the windshield and the person sitting, the average person sitting in the seat, if you're trying to go for a high chest shot, we're going to have you aim 8 inches high. And there's some basic science behind it, and I'm happy to expand upon it if I want.
I can show a little demo here.
Yep.
Say if my hand is Charlie Kirk's neck, obviously these angles are exaggerated.
Mhm.
If this bullet flies in, it's already at a downward angle. As it hits, there's more friction on the top of this bullet, right? So it's going to tend to pull that bullet this way, which is going to make it go upward as it hits. And it's going to pull the tip of that bullet the opposite way of what you'd expect. So there's actually a video of me and Matt Tardio shooting through a windshield and explaining that right after somebody said that's not how it works. I was like, really? here's me.
It's probably Chris Martinson, the physics.
No, Chris Martinson's been remarkably quiet the last 2 days. I just kind of want to point that out that he is.
So yeah, somebody posted something that he said. Anyways, I reposted that, but let me tell you something. I like Chris. It's unfortunate that he had to get into all these other things. He's wrong about ballistics. He was completely, like, he got everything wrong about Butler, folks. It's just a fact. And, you know, like, don't pretend that you're an expert in something you're not. Thanks for the discussion, Gary. Thank you, buddy. Gary, God understands righteous anger. I think you're good. Hey, look, man, I go home at night or walk upstairs at night and I can look myself in the mirror. I don't get everything right and I don't do everything perfectly right. But I'll tell you what, I haven't been a coward and I'm not going to sit back and not say what I believe. Too many people I know have died for that. It's not going to do it. And I don't care what it costs me. Grateful for your work. You're one of the few people who didn't jump at the opportunity to grift. Truth always wins. And look, I will tell you this. I'm not so like loyal to Trump or any government that I would love to find if I found corruption and I could have been part of uncovering that or some conspiracy to shoot Charlie Kirk, I would have loved to have been righteously doing so where the grifters are. It would have made a bunch of money. I felt good about my conscience. I like all of those things. And I'm happy to expose corruption where it is. I don't care if it comes from the Trump administration. I don't care if it comes from the Biden administration, whoever it is. That's not what happened. And here's the thing. When you start pushing those narratives and it's not true, now you're no longer a government critic. You're just an anti-American propagandist. And that's what, like, it goes one direction every time with them. They will not give, even when a scenario is more probable and beneficial to the ATF, the FBI, Utah, or whatever else, it could be 1,000 times more probable. It could be 1 in a million chances. And they're going to be like, oh, this is what happened. And they presented as fact. It presented as fact. Just like what I was talking about earlier with the Baron Coleman. He's like, here's what I think they did. All right. I see a little bit of dust down in the seat. You know what that is? Well, what is it? Could be 1,000 things, 1,000,000 different things. But you know what it is? It's a piece of flaked off lead. And do you know why? You know why that's there in that seat? Because somebody, probably Brian Harpool, had a bullet that was already shot. And once you shoot a bullet, like the lead will just flake off. All like that's true. You see what they do? That like they add things in there that are true. And they just smuggle in this BS. And people are just like on the edge, like, oh. And then they actually took that bullet, shoved it down into the wounds of Charlie. And everybody's like, case closed. He solved it. Man, this is great. Let me send you all of my paycheck and super chats. Idiots.
You have like way more patience than me. So when I see you actually getting angry, it makes me giggle. Because I'm like, he's real. Like even like a minor display of anger, I'm like, Gary's really pissed. It's funny.
Well, what's fun is like when you're sitting here laughing and you see like Ian Carroll or somebody talking smack on X, and you're just like, oh, da, 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 da. And then the response is, oh my God, you're crashing out. You're crashing out. Calm down. You need to get some anger management or something. This is like, oh, I was literally laughing and smiling.
I know. Yeah. It's just being stupid.
Apparently we do need a new easel. I don't know what happened to that thing. It just quit on me. I have used that 1,000 times. It has to be the Jews. I've used that literally hundreds and hundreds of times. It's never done that. And suddenly the legs got all weak. Thank you, buddy. Weird things happen. As old as Dennis Prager was 76, slipped in his bathroom and is paralyzed. Things happen. Yeah, you're not right. You're not wrong. Candy Cars think if you've seen one bullet, you've seen them all. Yeah. Like I've shot a gun before, or I saw someone shoot a gun before. So now I'm a subject matter expert on all of these things. I'm out. Good night, everyone. I send Gary a message on X, but my shooting target, it public on X. I will check that out, bud. Durr maroon shirts. What's up, Gil? Good to see you. Reports of court-only video supposedly shows Tyler putting gun together behind parapet wall. Thoughts?
We'll wait for the trial.
I don't.
Where we get to see it.
Is that true though? I don't know how they would see him from that angle. I don't think. Well, I think they're accounting for the time that he was back there. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's where I just say like, look, sometimes you just got to wait for the trial.
Yeah.
Right. You got to wait for the government to make the argument and wait for that to be publicly available, and then you can make a determination. But I can't, and I don't think anybody can honestly, intelligently comment on something they haven't seen. It's just not. Doesn't make we can't, you know.
I still think the angle of incidence is a big difference. It is. Evidence today, target picture practice showed TR good shot. The targets I saw did not indicate either indicated that it was really bad fundamentals or something was seriously like the tightest group on that. I don't even know if it's the same group, was like 5 inches or 6 inches. Allegedly at 100 yards, but then we have shots all over the place. Did I save? I wonder if I saved that. I think you would.
Did they have those? I wonder what the holes look like. Did they look keyholed at all?
No, they didn't. Okay. I was looking for that. Let me see if I have that here, and that'll be fun to go through again.
Hey, somebody's trying to set up a hog hunt in Texas, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
With Marcus Luttrell? Is that the comment I saw?
Mm-hmm.
I must have saved it to my phone. I took a screenshot of the targets, or maybe I just backed it up and talked about the targets. Yeah, I think that's what I did. But yeah, like,
well, if you're saying 5 MOA with a bolt gun, that's not a good shot. There's something wrong.
It was worse than that, because again, there was like shots all the way to the lowest portions to the highest portions. Like I couldn't even, there was probably 15 rounds, 20 rounds that I had no idea where he was aiming at. And they hit the far extreme edges of the paper, nowhere near a bullseye. So
man, well, that explains the shot in the neck to me. I mean, you know, I can take an average.
Jim, see if you can find that real quick. I forgot what day it was. I think it was day 2, maybe day 3. They all run together. I think it was day 3. If you can find that target, or even just send me, just confirm whether it was what day it was, and send me the link, and we'll take a look at it.
But yeah, I mean, if you as long as your ammunition and weapon are good, I can take the average person off the street and have them shooting 1.5 inch groups with a bolt gun in an afternoon. Exactly. In a session. It's not hard.
Yeah. And again, I mean, some of that's determined by the rifle and the ammo.
Well, a lot of it, you know, Remington core locks are not known for their super high precision or consistency. You know?
And that barrel, who knows when it was made, how much has been shot. I mean, it probably started off as a 4 MOA gun, which is plenty good for hunting within 100 yards or so. And that's what most people are doing. So who knows what's going on there? I don't know. Maybe he shoots like Michael J. Fox and he can't get in a good steady position.
Well, and that's another thing too. I mean, not at the range. I wouldn't anticipate him being this, but when it gets there and there's actually a human being at the other end of that scope, and you're looking at making a life-altering decision.
Yeah.
If you mean to tell me that his heart rate wasn't up.
Well, here's the only problem that I hear this a lot. Like, how did he do that? How, he would be so nervous. Well, you're projecting your own things. Like, I don't know that guy's not a sociopath. I don't know that his heart rate skipped a beat.
That's true.
Like, I will say, like, when you read the text messages after he did it, it is completely disassociated with the reality. It was like, oh, I'll tell you, the old grandpa's gun shoots pretty good. It's 2000 scope. Like he was out shooting a steel target. Like,
that's true. In order for him to do that, there has to be some level of sociopathy there. So just to be able to do it. So you could be right. I mean, that's like, Ted Bundy, they said, like, he said he never like got worked up. He was methodical. It was like just doing a task. So you're right. Yeah, maybe that's, but at any rate, I don't think he's like a super experienced shooter. And there's a big difference between laying a rifle over a concrete parapet wall, on a knee in the sun, and, laying down in the prone at a range on a sandbag, supported. So there's probably like, essentially the back of the rifle was probably completely unsupported.
Well, he was laying in the prone. He was laying in the prone unsupported when he took the shot. But regardless, you're right. Like, I don't know. Maybe his heart rate was through the roof. Maybe, like, but the thing is like, these are a lot of, like, people take, like, there's no way he did it because I couldn't have done this thing because X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean?
You're right. Yeah.
Oh man. Wish my wife would say that. Charlie's head didn't explode because it isn't made of ballistic gel. I've been following you since Butler. I'm very proud of your tenacity and consistency. Thank you. Appreciate you. Belief is a choice. If people want to believe comforting lies, though I'm not Christian, but the verse is true. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Fix that, Wukong. Go find Jesus. Is a judge a good carry weapon? I wish I could I wish I could show you my 500 Smith & Wesson. It's really my favorite carry weapon. Matter of fact, I got some pictures here.
Hang on. I got one too. Hang on.
No. Hey, you can't.
Oh, I'm not allowed.
You can't. That's why I was like, oh, let me try to find a picture here.
I got an airsoft one. You want to see my airsoft
no
replica?
They won't care. They won't care. Yeah. We were shooting this on the 4th. Dude, I hate the new update. And I say new, it's like the way the pictures are on the iOS now are ridiculous. Like, they put them in all these weird folders and I can never find anything ever. It's newer than that. Oh, here we go.
Gary, it was day 4 that they testified that he had they found multiple used shooting targets with holes in them inside Tyler Robinson's home.
All right, I will pull that up. I have a picture. I have a video of my 12-year-old shooting the 500 S&W. Anyways, that gun. Oh, there it is right there. I mean, that thing looks like a like something off of Roger Rabbit. It is so ridiculous and so much fun to shoot. I love that gun. It's my favorite gun. I got that for Father's Day.
I got like the obnoxiously long-barreled version of it.
Yeah, you know what? I will play this video real quick. It says, hey, Gary, Benny Johnson, another guy that was in the courtroom today, said the zoomed in on the video in the 4K showing everything still hearsay, but interesting. Great show. I am going to show that very quickly. Oop, all right, I will pull that up in just a moment because I think looking at the target is interesting. Yes, blood is slightly denser than water. There you go. It is slightly denser than water. Jen, if you ever put something up that proves me wrong ever again, you're fired. I'm just saying. Ever contradict me in front of my friends? I'm just joking. I'm glad we found out that information. Seriously, don't ever do that again.
I will tender my resignation immediately.
Thank you. Good call. You're fired. You're rehired. I just posted this, and this is again, I'm not a big fan of Benny Johnson. I think he's been way too cowardly on this whole thing, but this is worth showing. Let me share this tab instead, and I will play it at
Kirk pre-trial here. I just left the 4th District Courthouse in Provo, Utah, where the Charlie Kirk pre-trial hearings have just concluded. I was in the courthouse for all of them at the invitation of Erica Kirk. We've been friends with Charlie and the Kirk family for a very long time. She asked my wife and I to come out. And I need to explain something to you because I think it is critical for the greater public to understand what I just witnessed. The judge ordered that the cameras in the courthouse be turned off for us to watch the high definition, high quality version of this video. This video has been criticized online because it is a TV that's being filmed that shows security camera, and it's being filmed from a long ways away. It's a small courthouse, but the camera that's filming this television screen, not only does it distort the security camera footage, but it also is at least 100 feet away from the screen itself. And so what you are seeing here is like a 720p aspect ratio version quality of what they have. And the judge ordered us all to watch the full high definition security footage, 4K, that exists of Tyler Robinson murdering Charlie Kirk. I was able to see it myself, maybe 7 feet away from me was the screen. They rolled in a screen for the family to watch. This was a request from the family's attorney. The criticism of this video is that you can't see his face, and you can't make out the license plate, and you can't see much detail. Well, let me tell you that having seen it myself in person, the state's case is overwhelming and demonstrable. You can see every bit of the license plate number. You can watch the enhanced version where they zoom in on the rooftop to show Tyler Robinson running across the top of the Losi building, lining it up perfectly with the shot that kills Charlie Kirk, and then him fleeing, and something else you can't see is Tyler Robinson.
See, folks, this is what they're saying. They're not saying that you can see recoil or anything else. They're just saying that, obviously, like, what do you think that person's doing? Well, we didn't see the gun go off, so it didn't happen. Like, what they do have is they have cameras down at the bottom, and then they have that camera. They can sync those up as far as time goes, and like, oh my God, what a coincidence that this person is laying there in the prone with a firearm. A gun goes off at the exact same time that these cameras down on the ground pick it up. Yeah, but it's possible that something else happened. Well, that's not reasonable doubt. That's just doubt. That's like some weird conspiracy brain rot doubt.
But I saw him for 3.5 hours.
The 99% plus of people that are convicted of homicide with a firearm, they don't have video of it. A lot of times they only have the gun. Like, with what they do have, Tyler Robinson will be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by any reasonable jury out there.
Or as I sat 10 feet away from Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson, I don't know how to describe this. He never made eye contact, never turned around in his chair, never faced the family. Erica tells me he's never looked at the family, not once. He just stared at the ground while this video was playing in 4K, while the courthouse gasped at seeing this in its full resolution. I'm telling you, it's like, it is damning to see this, and it will be released, just not yet. Tyler Robinson is pale, sallow, looks like he hasn't been eating.
Another thing that Barron's putting out there, and again, just poisoning the well every chance he gets, is that Tyler Robinson's car had a sunroof. This one doesn't. Folks, we actually have pictures from when his car was being towed away and impounded, taken in for evidence. We can see that his car does not have a sunroof. So just be clear.
Skeletal. You could see Tyler Robinson's bones through his suit. Tyler Robinson looked sickly. It looked like the weight of what he has done has been pressed upon him. And that's what the testimony of Lance Twiggs yesterday revealed, that he's sorry for what he did, that he wished he hadn't done it. That's the testimony. And that he was trying to kill himself. That's what he said to his parents, who were also not too far from me. But while this video was playing, something that I think you needed, that no one could see, but that everybody needs to hear about, and I have permission to share, is that Erica Kirk was in a ball of tears in the shoulder of Charlie's mother. And Charlie's mother was crying on Erica. It was so painful to watch this in 4K. It was so tough to watch this video, and they blacked out and they blurred some of the video here. To see the full high definition is so damning. And that's the position of the prosecution. position of the prosecution is this case is a slam dunk, that we have overwhelming empirical and demonstrable evidence that this is something that the court and a jury will convict and will send Tyler Robinson to the electric chair or to a firing squad, which is, by the way, legal in Utah. There are multiple situations that would merit a firing squad in Utah. Some states don't have that. Utah does. And so I need to sort of couch the full picture of what it was like inside of the courthouse. Because what you see online here is, a really tough and incomplete approximation of all of the evidence that the defense has. I'm sorry, all the evidence that the prosecution has. The evidence has no, the defense has no evidence. And even the video, like with Lance Twiggs, half of it was redacted. Half of it has been blocked by the judge, who did everything in the pretrial, before the trial got going today, did everything to effectively, ensure that there was going to be extreme protections on the media and security and secrecy. And while we can see clips like this, and I'm thankful for that, the judge certainly errs on the side of the constitutional rights of Tyler Robinson, weighing them against media and the First Amendment. There was a First Amendment lawyer there for the media that was interrupting and asking, obviously, for as much access as could possibly be given. Like, for instance, the judge didn't allow the screens to be filmed today. I'm not sure if that's not a permanent ruling. That's what he ruled today. What you saw yesterday is Lance Twiggs just say that Tyler Robinson admitted to doing this murder 7 times. Text messages, multiple times. Handwritten note, multiple times. She admitted to him multiple times that he did this and that he's sorry about it. Admitted to his parents when he turned himself in, and then eventually turning himself in and admitting to law enforcement. And so I would ask, as you watch and as you interpret.
I don't know that part's true. I don't know that there's any record that he's admitted to law enforcement.
This for yourself. Please hang tight for the full evidence. Please hang tight for what is about to be revealed to the public. Do not be on the side of the demons tormenting the Kirks. It is, first off, immoral and unchristian to do this to a widow. If you are a Christian, there are numerous verses about how to treat widows and orphans in the Bible. Tormenting them and spinning lies, evidence-free lies about them is not how you treat a widow. But then don't be on the wrong side. You saw yesterday that everybody who's been making up these evidence-free, spurless claims was destroyed. Every single theory, conspiracy theory, I hate even to use that term because everything's a theory until it's proven wrong. Well, it's proven wrong yesterday. And I saw it for myself. And I'm saying this, I know that I have a pre-existing relationship with the Kirks, and I worked with Charlie for close to a decade, but I'm saying this as a human being, as a father myself, as a husband to myself. For the love of God, have mercy on them. End the torment. Eliminate your capacity to be deceived or tricked into thinking that there is no case here against Tyler Robinson. You were able to see in the video that I saw, you were able to see plainly him get up on the roof, crawl across the roof, and fire the weapon. You were able to see it. Yes, I wish the cameras were closer, but when they enhance the images, it's obvious what's happening. And I saw it myself. And so I beg of you, please pray for a speedy trial, pray for justice, and let's continue to tell the truth on this channel, especially now that we have the evidence out. All right. Like, share, and subscribe for.
All right. So there you go. I think that is some important context of what's going on there. Everybody needs, you guys tell me what you think about that in the chat. Yeah. Natalie Beisner in the chat. Thank you, Gary. Been watching all week. You're fearless in a way I'm not. And the ballistics expertise is much needed. Glad to have big voices on our side. God bless you and your family. Natalie, you're a big voice too. You really are. If you're not following Natalie Beisner, folks, fix that. Go follow her. Thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. Folks who haven't done so already, make sure you like and you subscribe. Make sure you guys go follow Nate. He hasn't started a YouTube channel yet, but I'm working on that. And make sure you guys go follow him on X. Lots of great commentary. And also down in the description below is a link if you'd like to become a member and support the channel that way. We really appreciate that. Very thankful for all of you guys that watch, subscribe, that share our content. That's another thing. Go share our content. Be wary of Benny Johnson. He's one of the influencers caught up in the tenant media rush of money scandal with Tim Pool. Well, I've already said my piece multiple times about Benny Johnson. I think Well, I quite frankly, I think he's a coward. I don't know why he hasn't protected. If he's such good friends with Charlie Kirk and Eric Kirk, why he hasn't been more vocal calling out Candace Owens. I have a problem with that. I think he should have. There should be a provision just to move sentencing when there's this amount of evidence. Disgusting. It takes so long. I don't disagree with that. Nate, anything we didn't cover? Anything we didn't cover today, we covered in our last 30-6. We're probably going to do this 10 more times. I don't know.
Probably to get, I don't think people ever stop arguing, blaming the Jews or, Egyptian aircraft or space lasers or whatever. Somebody's going to be out there doing it. But like, look, I think you're starting to see, with all this evidence coming out, the tide turning, in terms of people are starting to admit like, hey, maybe I drank the Kool-Aid. Right. And the one thing that's a little frustrating, it's not frustrating. I don't care. Right. But to me, a lot of these things were obvious. And these conspiracy theories were just ridiculous and causing like undue stress to the family and things like that. And there were certain, like you can tell a lot of people now are piling on the, oh yeah, Candace was full of crap the whole time, but they've been silent for the last 10 months. And like, I'm glad they're coming around, but part of what pointed that out was the tenacity of people like you who never shut up about it. Right, who never let it rest, and just never just let her have her voice where, you forced her to say not so tactical Gary every day for 10 months. And, I think that's important because, when people are clearly spewing nonsense, somebody has to have, first you got to be interested in it. I mean, and be knowledgeable about how to, counter, speak against it intelligently, but somebody has to have the guts to say, look, I don't care how popular she is. I don't care how big her platform is. I don't care how loud her followers are. I'm going to call it out because it's bullshit. And so I'm glad you did that. I'm glad there's people out there that are still willing to do that. So,
well, you're in the same boat, and I've known you for some time now. And I love the fact that you're not afraid to call out BS, even to some extent, if it's people that you're close to. So
what are you talking about?
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Whatever do you mean, Gary? I mean, look, if I disagree with it, I disagree with it. And I think that's kind of the fundamental, American trait is if you don't like it, you fucking say so. And if you're wrong, that's the other thing, though. Here's the part of that you have to take with that. You can say, I disagree with this. But if you get proven wrong, you got to be willing to say, hey, I was wrong. And then you move on and that's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. No harm, no foul. I think that's what we're kind of lacking with this argument is people are just willing to, it's like they're getting married to their dumbass ideas.
Yeah.
And they're just not willing to get a divorce no matter what.
But they are willing to switch ideas. They just won't admit they were wrong on the previous ones. That's the,
yeah, they just
just the dishonesty. I don't know which one it is. I think it's a little bit of both for some people. For Candace and the other grifters, I mean, it's just dishonesty. They just know how to manipulate people, and they know that they admit that they're wrong. It's either just move on and just forget that ever happened, and people will forgive them. And I don't understand it.
Yeah, Americans are like really forgiving people, especially, and they get it. Like everybody's been wrong once or twice, and honestly, like it's like you were saying with the bulletproof vest. Just came out and you were like, hey, I got new information. So that old information doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not like your audience just said, okay. You know what I mean? Your audience was like, cool, get it. I get it, but there's some people that like, they cannot bring themselves to admit they're wrong. But anyway, look, you've been steadfast in combating this. And I think we're at the beginning of crossing over that precipice. We may have found the peak of Dumbass Mountain and able to come down the other side of it. So may have found the actual peak.
I'm gonna share this one last thing because I actually love this. I love that this is happening. I had posted the other day. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Like it's probably in my replies too.
Also, Gary, there is a photo that Nate wanted me to share with you.
I think I got the Target photo. Somebody sent them to me.
Oh, nice. Let me see if I got this real quick here. Did you already share those? Here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna make sure we see this, and boom. Look at the tweet at the bottom here. So this right here started off with this. I posted this the other day.
Yes, I saw
7/9/26. I was like, so did real Candace and her simp minions just move on from the exploding mic or what? And it's funny. This is also another, I'm kind of distracting from the point, but like, it's funny how like you could put together these really, like you really take the time to make a good tweet that's super informative, or you just do one of these throwaway things that I thought like would get like 500 views, and it gets 109,000 views. And it's like the dumbest tweet that I put out all week. Anyways,
because it's salacious. That's why people
actually responded to this. Not at all. Even more convinced at this pretrial. Been on vacation, but don't worry, we'll be back next week. And I said, I'm ecstatic that Candace is committed to riding this one into the ground. You have to appreciate the commitment to a theory that defies physics, common sense, and reality. The best part, she'll push it even further because this obscure YouTuber called her out on it. By all means, keep proving the world how ignorant, gullible, and delusional you are. Fully rooting for Charlie's DEI hire here. Don't give up. If you do enough episodes on it, pure fiction can become reality. Don't forget to mention the Jews. That'll sell it. That'll sell it.
It will. But that's what sucks too, is because like I'll do it too. I'll get fed up and I'll post just some shit talking, Yeah, there's not one consistent group in there.
No, so we kind of got a group over here. We kind of got a group over here, but those are even split up. But look at all these bullet holes at the bottom, like on the backer. There's some at the very bottom edge of the backer. If you look at the top, some of these are prefabricated holes. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 prefabricated holes, but there are holes all over this thing. And in between, this is whoever sent you this, punch them in the face. There's actually holes in between the targets. There's holes at the very bottom and also at the very top, all over this thing. Like this is one of these, if somebody showed up to one of my long range courses and them or the gun shooting like this, I'm like, go grab a different gun.
Yeah,
you're now renting one of my guns because something crazy here. Look between the second and now I don't know if he's aiming at the bullseyes at the top, but even between the first and the second at the top center, in between those two, there's 2 holes there.
It's not good.
No. And
it's not good at all.
This is not under stress. So again, I don't know, and I don't even know what the distance of, I don't know if he was shooting at 100-yard range. Man, if this is 50 yards,
that's 50 yards. It's awful.
It's awful at 100.
Well, yes. But have you ever seen those shooter correction, graphs where it's like and the one that was like, you suck. You like every pie piece is you suck. And it's like, keep doing, and then the bullseyes keep doing what you're doing. Like,
100%. Suck less. All right, folks. Well, listen, hopefully you found tonight informative, educational, maybe even a little bit entertaining. We appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you share their content. Like, that's one of the best things you can do. If you want to know how you can get in this fight at a minimum, share the content, help promote our channel so that we can get the truth out there. Nate, always enjoy talking to you, whether it's on one of these or just on the phone or some random place in DC. But appreciate you and keep doing what you're doing. I just want to make sure any other super chats, folks. Thank you for the support. We got I got handgun courses we're going to be running tomorrow and Sunday, so I will not be on the socials this weekend. And again, if that's another way that you want to support our channel, go to our website. You can see that all the training, all the things that we offer, we will treat you right. I promise you. But for everybody else, Nate, you don't go anywhere. Everybody, Jen, thank you for all your hard work tonight and keeping the chat straight, as well as fetching our visuals. She's always killing it, getting us new guests all the time. Everybody else, have a great weekend. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.